Hello, everybody. Welcome into our latest live broadcast. It's Friday, the 8th of May, 2026. I am CareyHolzman, and today we're going to review a brand new manufacturer, new to us, that comes to us from France. In fact, the website links we've got provided to you in the video notes are in French. However, if you click on the top right corner of their website, you will see English and another language offered, and we'll get to that in just a minute. I titled the video in French as well because in order to order this computer, you would order it from France. We've never seen a mini PC from France before. Essentially, I believe it's all still assembled and built in Asia and China. However, the design is purely French, and the French are known for their unique creativity when it comes to food and perfumes and fashion and design. So for that reason, I was very intrigued by this. So we're going to take a look at it today. And before we do, I want to give a shout out and a thank you to our friends at VIP-URCDKEys. They're the folks where I get my Windows and Office license keys. Just had to buy one the other day, as a matter of fact, if you've been watching. If you look under any of my live videos, like here's one from March, scroll down there and you'll see the video description and it says more. Click on more and that will open up the full video notes, which contains all the links for everything we talk about in that particular video. And of course, we have our Windows and Office license keys in there. And you can click on any of those links to take you directly to the site for that product, or you can just go to the site and search for it yourself. Once you're there, just hit the buy now. If you're not signed in, it'll ask you to sign in first. It's free to create an account, and that way it'll keep a record of receipt and be able to email you privately your receipt and product key and download information. Once you've done that, go ahead and do your buy it now or buy now, and then under the coupon code right there, it says promotion code, put in my name, Carey, C-A-R-E-Y, and hit submit or apply, and that'll take 25% off. If you want to save 25%, or don't put my coupon code in if you don't want to save 25%. Either way, submit your order. And what I love about VIP-URCDKEys is they accept PayPal. Anytime you're dealing with an online software seller that won't take PayPal, it's likely because they're in violation of PayPal's terms, which is a big red flag and why you shouldn't order it. So PayPal is a requirement, not only for convenience, but for the reason to know you're dealing with something legit. They also support everything they sell for 6 months. So if you have any problems with activation or downloading or installing the software, the fact that they do that at all at this price is insane. Somebody's got to pay these people to help tutor the end user. And not only that, but sometimes they do make a mistake. It does happen sometimes, and a product key doesn't work, and they'll just issue you another one if that's the case. If there's any problems at all, my first advice is ask them for help. They're available all the time. And when you place your order, you'll have your email receipt, product key, and download link within about 2 minutes, day or night, holiday, weekday, weekend, doesn't matter. So I love that you're not stuck with dealing with any different time zones. And if you still run into any issues, you can reach out to us directly, and we'll be happy to assist. It's pretty rare we ever have to, because if it wasn't, we wouldn't be promoting them here. So our shout out and our thanks to our friends over at VIP-URCDKEys for offering my audience the same value that I get personally, and I buy it the same way for the same price as you. There's no secrets here. Everything's transparent. With that being said, I also feel obligated to tell you that Kubb, the company that makes today's mini PC, sent this to us for free in exchange for a review, and beyond that, there's no other obligation and there's no money exchanging hands either way. So we're just here to give this an honest review. I'm going to unbox these for the very first time and experience them for the very first time, and I have no basis to go off of. There's no other YouTube videos on this computer. We're the only ones. So if you're looking for unique content that nobody else is doing, you've come to the right place. Welcome, my friends. Welcome into the show. I've got 2 different mini PCs from our friends at Kubb. And the first one here, this little box, this is a little fanless computer. So it runs at 0 dB, no noise. It is perfectly silent. And take a look at this bad boy. Now, this is as far as I've gone, as I've taken it out of the box and I've looked at it. This is all I've done. I've not looked inside of what's in these other boxes, and nor am I going to. Until maybe next week, we'll take a look at this one. But you can see it's a pretty unique design. And it's all just a giant heavy heat sink. Look at that, you can even see through it right there. So the whole computer is at the bottom half. The antennas are external, so you don't deal with the shielding that a giant heatsink like this would have on Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. And in the front, you've got a power button, a couple of USBs, and we're going to just save the rest of this for a future video, because the reason I brought it out was to just show you, by comparison, what we're going to look at today, which is more of a traditional mini PC in the sense of power and, you know, cooling. Looks like we've got a power adapter right here on top. What else is up there? Power cord. No, that's an HDMI cable. And then underneath, oh, this one is white. Let's see. Let's take that out. And set this stuff in here for right now. So just to give you some idea of what we're looking at, that's obviously the back of the unit. That's the power button. So these are our two Kubb units. So not only are we the first YouTube channel to review this, but we're the first to review each of these models. I'm going to save this one for future content. Okay, so we're going to put it back in the box and you'll see this next week. This is obviously more of a specific product for people that need something ultra quiet. Whereas this is more of a general purpose product for home and office use. So I'm super excited to look at this one first, because I think this will appeal to more people just in general. And this will appeal to a certain smaller segment of the population that, you know, need something small and completely silent. All right, let me just set this aside right down there so we can focus on the task at hand. And now that we've taken a look at it, clear that off. And I'm going to need a power brick. What else is in the box here, by the way? Let's see. So I stuck the HDMI cable and power brick back in there, but let's see what else we've got in the box. It's some unique packaging. And yeah, this shipped to us all the way from France. You know what? There is nothing else in this box. That is it. Hello, Mara.
You have email and you have to use French.
Oh! Marie Antoinette baguette.
Right.
Rendezvous. Ménage à trois. What else do I know? Qu'est-ce que c'est? Parlez-vous français? That's all I got. What do we have here? Got some plastic on this. Let's get this film off of here. Oh, I see. I see why there's no power cable included, because it's got this little flip out American style plug here. And it looks like they can just pull that out and change it for different countries. So that way, if you're ordering from another country with a different plug, they'll just include a different piece that slides in here. And then that'll plug directly in the wall. All right, but I'm still trying to get this film off of here because I don't want that to cause us to build up more heat. That's what happens if you leave it on. Sure, the unit looks like new on the outside, and you're cooking it on the inside year after year. It'll look great, though. Was that the old Billy Crystal thing? It doesn't matter how you feel as long as you look good. So yeah, I would say probably best, and I'm sure the manufacturer recommends that you remove all of this film so that it can properly cool. That's just there to keep it from getting marked up during shipping. And it's a power adapter, so who cares if it gets marked up anyway? But that's how they do it across the industry. Not they being the French, I just mean electronics manufacturers in general. And this piece, This film just doesn't want to peel off in one piece. Every time I peel it, it keeps tearing on me. So it should be one simple pull is becoming a little bit more of a, wow, those are two separate pieces. They're not even attached. Okay, well, that explains some of my difficulty here. Yeah, I could have done without this, but might have been, yeah, these are all little separate pieces. They're not one long piece. So, you know, have fun with that. Wow, it's just everywhere. Here's another piece, another little piece. I wonder how many pieces this is if we count them. I thought it was tearing, but it's not tearing. Well, I think maybe one or two of them tore, but the rest of these, see that piece right there? It just comes to an end, one clean break. So I think I got it all. Then I'll just pop this little bad boy back in here. Like that. There we go. All right, so that's our power adapter. And this power adapter says, let's see what our voltage and, well, we know our voltage. Let's see what our wattage is here. This is 19 volts, 120 watts. And it does not have Kubb's name on this power brick, so I would get a label maker or a silver Sharpie marker, and I would just write down, you know, KUBB, because this is a standard barrel power connector, but they're not all the same. So just because this fits doesn't mean it's the right adapter. So we want to keep these two things together. And when it's new, of course, you know where this belongs. But after you've had it a while, and if you move it around a bit, you might get confused. And if you're anything like me, now you're not quite sure 100% of which power adapter goes to which device. So it's a nice touch when manufacturers label, put their brand on it, like HP and Dell do, but we don't see it too often in the mini PC space. So you got to do it yourself, or don't, and you know, it's your choice. And then when the day comes, you'll say, "Oh, I get what Carey was saying now." We all get there one way or another. Ask me how I knew. All right, so with that, let me say hello to everybody joining us in the chat. I just want to get rid of this HDMI cable. We'll get it out of the way. Seems bizarre that that comes with an HDMI cable. That is normally only included on a machine that can be VESA mounted, on a mini PC that you can mount behind the monitor or mount it on a wall, mount it on a desk, under a desk, for a short run. And it's a very short HDMI cable. This one cannot be VESA mounted. It's not meant to be. You couldn't do it if you wanted to. So why are they including an HDMI cable? Maybe it's tradition. It doesn't make any sense. The problem with the HDMI cable they include is it's very short. It's not likely going to reach where you need it to go. The problem if they don't include an HDMI cable is if you wanted to mount a mini PC to the back of your monitor, you don't want a 6-foot HDMI cable that only needs to be 6 inches long, and you're left with all this excess cable. So for that reason, mini PC manufacturers that allow for VESA mounting include an HDMI, and somehow I guess all of this got confusing and people don't remember why they include them anymore. But that is a very short HDMI cable. It is not a standard length, and it does not belong with this computer. I don't know why it's in the box. I just think they just treat them all. The manufacturer probably just throws an HDMI cable in there and doesn't think about it. If it's a mini PC, most of them have VESA mounts, therefore most of them want HDMI. And rather than make the extra step or exception to not include it, it's easier to train the employees to just always put it in there regardless. But that's an unusual situation, and it's not a big deal. But I just want you to know, what are you supposed to do with that cable? I don't know. I don't know either. But at least you can understand how we got there, right? Let's say hello. Look, everybody's in the chat room. I see it flying here. Let's say hello to everybody. Starting with Michael Lavelle says hello. There's Isaiah joining us, 3D Everything, and Sean Skinner, Mark Baggett, and David Graham saying hello. Mara, our channel administrator, saying hello there in blue. I also see our friend Mark Gaines and Dustin Fuller saying hello. There's Frank Jimmy saying hello to everybody. 89 degrees Fahrenheit in the at the East Coast in Florida. Yeah, it's warming up. We'll be over 100 degrees the next 7 days, and then probably just stay in there until October, late October. Here we go. What are you going to do? Andy W6AD says hello, and I noticed, Andy, there is a new firmware update on the regular Nano, not the Nano KVM Pro. I wasn't interested in the previous update because it adds basically Pico Claw, which I don't have any use for. But now this update apparently does some more things, so I guess I'll be getting Pico Claw. I just won't use it. So if you have a regular Nano KVM, do know that there is a new firmware update, but it does not apply to the Pro model. Luke Greenia says, what's crack-a-lackin'? Hope everyone's doing well. Luke also emailed us, said he received the laptop. It arrived perfectly. His wife loves it, and it's working. Everything couldn't be better. And then Frankie B also received his mini PC that he sent in to us for repair, and he said he received it, and it's faster than it's ever been, and he's super happy with the work we did. So thank you, Luke, and thank you to Frankie B for your support and your feedback. And I have anxiety when I ship, especially when it's going, all the way to the other coast, the other side of the country. So when I hear back from people saying, hey, I got it, okay, first of all, good. No one stole it. 2, it arrived without damage, good. And then the final thing is, are you happy? Does it work? Is everything good? And we got 3 yeses from Luke, and we got 3 yeses from Frankie. First time out, that's my goal. My goal is to send it out right the first time. If I forgot something, if I rush through it, and they have to send it back, none of us are happy. So that's why it's so important when you might seem like, God, this guy's so strict. Think of the money and the time involved in shipping something back and forth that takes a week and about $40 to go back and forth from one side of the country to the other. Really want to do it right the first time. And the customer really wants it done right the first time. Being without their computer sucks. So they're both glad to have them in their possession, and they should be on their own now, right? If they need any help in the future, we're here. But as far as getting them back on the road, we got green lights all the way. So that's wonderful news. And then I can put my anxiety to bed knowing that I can check those off the box. I don't have to worry about, keeping the tracking info or anything like that. Once they confirm they have it, all that can get filed away. Never need to look at it again. So that's a great way to end the week. I also had a customer reach out to me and say their print preview isn't working in Outlook. And I'm looking at it and I can't find anything wrong with it. So I made a few changes and I said to the client, let me know if that works. They said, no, now I have another problem. So one of the changes I made was shutting down some things that were starting when the computer starts up to see if there's any conflict. And it turns out they're still using one of those things. I just turned that back on, no big deal. And then I looked at it again and I'm like, I can't see what the problem is. So we got together over the phone so they could demonstrate to me what they were doing. And what they're doing is they're opening an attachment in Outlook that's a PDF file. Yeah, I didn't know it was just PDF files. The second thing they didn't realize is when they double click on the attachment, it launches Adobe Reader. They're not in Outlook anymore. They don't know that. As far as they know, they're in Outlook. They open the email in Outlook, they double click the PDF file, and that starts Adobe. They have the professional Adobe Acrobat program installed. And when they go to print, the Adobe print, not the Outlook print, the Adobe print dialog comes up and it shows the preview page is blank. Well, in the bottom left of that print window, there's an option that says show comments and feedback. And if you drop that down, it'll say to show the document. And all the person did was inadvertently click that. They don't realize how they did it. I don't know how they did it. Maybe somebody else did it. Somebody changed it. And it saves the setting as the whatever was used previously. So it's a feature, not a bug. So whoever inadvertently pushed that button and dropped that dialog box down to showing comments and feedback, I think is what it says, it shows a blank page because there's no comments or feedback on the PDF file. So I'm there looking at printer drivers and rebuilding Office and reinstalling Adobe, thinking the print handler wasn't being registered correctly in the registry. I got myself all wound up in something that was incredibly simple to fix. Just change the drop down to document, and then you've got to print it. If you just change it to document, you exit, it'll just go back to whatever the last successful print settings were. So by printing the document with the preview now showing document, then every time it comes up now defaults to document setting. And they were confused because they said it's not doing it at any of the other computers in the office. And it only started last week, so I'm thinking, oh, maybe a Windows update. But if it was a Windows update, they all would have gotten the Windows update. So why is only one computer doing this? And that's when I figured, I was telling myself, this has to be something simple. This has to be an inadvertent click. And that's exactly what it was. But it took me 4 days to figure this out because first I didn't understand it was just PDF files. Then when I understood that, I didn't understand that it was opening an Adobe myself until I changed the PDF handler back to Microsoft or back to Edge. Then when I go to print, the print dialog looks like a Microsoft print dialog, which is very different than Adobe's. And I said, okay, well, that does fix the problem, except this one will look different than all the other computers in the office, and I'm going to get a call. Why is this one different? So that's when it eventually led me back to, you know, wait a minute, what's this dialog here? What happens if we change it? Boom. Problem solved, customers happy. And one of the reasons it took an extra day was the employee that I was talking to had a day off this week, and I didn't know that. So I was waiting all day Wednesday. I got no response. So what I sent on Tuesday, I heard feedback from on Thursday. Then last night, found this problem, addressed it, said try it again tomorrow, sent them a message. And then I got my message today from them saying everything works great now. So I tell you this in case you ever see that problem. You don't have to go through everything I went through. And thank goodness for remote access so I could have the customer demonstrate it because I was confused. I'm like, everything's previewing fine. So take that for what it's worth. In the meantime, Jonathan Fells joins us and says hello in our chat room, as does Card88 saying hello from Michigan, my home state. Sander Vanderhoven saying hello from the Netherlands. There's David Herzog joining us along with Eddie Casanova. Scott says hello from, well, he just says hello. Caniac44 says hello from North Carolina. There's Dazzle555 and Jim Kenny. Jason Wyrick and John Lewis. John Williams. Slavko. Mark Leibowitz from Chicago. Looking forward to hearing me speak French. Yeah, we're going to let the AI take care of that. No problem. Bajin guy says hello. He mentions the small black cube looks like an Amazon Fire Cube. Definitely much more powerful than that. There's Frankie B. Speaking of the devil, he says, came in to say hello. He's going to a dentist appointment. Right on. Well, thank you for popping in and saying hello, Frankie. Elijah Dickens says hello. Anthony SF says hello. All right. I hope I'm not missing anybody. And if I did miss you, I apologize because I am super anxious to move on with a review. So I guess the first place I want to start is to just plug it in and turn it on, because I really don't even know what they sent. We're really looking at this for the very first time, together, live and unscripted, unrehearsed, with no preparation whatsoever. Sound good? That's where the fun is. At least that's the way I have fun. Let's see, where do we plug power in? I guess in the back, huh? And I wonder what's behind this little square. What's that for? I don't know. looks like there's 4 screws, and then this piece looks like it slides out, right? Because of this lip here, it's not going to lift off. So it must slide out. We'll take a look at that later. Let's fire it up first. So we need power, and I need an HDMI cable. We're not going to plug it into the network. You know this, right? Okay. Don't make me keep explaining it. There's a USB-C back here. There's 2 USB type A's. And keyboard and a mouse right here. This looks like 2 USB 2s in the back. Perfect for a keyboard and mouse. And then you've got more USBs up front. We've got a Velcro tie on the power cable. Now, the only thing I don't like about this so far is the fact that this does not have a power cable that plugs into it. So that means with just this one cable, it looks like we've got about 6 feet, which is fair. I would like to have seen 10 feet, but you know, if there was another cable like a laptop has, then you could just buy, well, first of all, the other cable would probably be 6, giving us 2 6-foot cables, a total of 12 feet. See, the problem is, like in my example here, I need to run this down to the floor and behind the desk. And oftentimes you've seen me struggle where these things, I have to move them right to the edge of the desk and they can fall over. This is the problem with these. Also, these can sometimes block other plugs from plugging in. Versus if you just had a regular plug, it wouldn't block anything. Now, this design does show that it's vertically going to block, which means we wouldn't want to put it at the top outlet and block the one below it. And you wouldn't want to put it sideways on an outlet strip because you might block 2 or 3 outlets neighboring it. So they did their best to minimize the amount of space it takes up, but it's still quite long, and depending on how your outlet or surge protector is set up, this may get in the way, plus the short cable. And having an additional cable on a proper laptop style brick would have avoided all of this. So, you know, I'm a little disappointed that the French, being so well known for their design innovations, just stuck with the standard boilerplate, you know, sort of this is a very inexpensive way to do things. And I don't know, I just would have, rather than have this adapter, just include a different cable, one for Europe, one for Japan, one for the USA, like laptop makers do. But let's see if it's even an issue right now. This looks like we'll be all right. Let me plug it in down here. There we go. And then we'll grab this keyboard, make sure that's turned on, and then we'll hit the power button. I don't see any lights on this at all. Like, how do you know if it's on? I don't see an LED on this thing. Let's switch over to HDMI 3 over here and see if this is even on. It could be on. I don't know. Let's jump over. I'll put camera 1 in a corner so you can just verify that we haven't lost any connection here. Okay. The fan is not spinning. Let me hit the power button. Okay, now the fan is turning. I think there is a teeny tiny, very dim blue LED back behind this black power button. But if you're somebody that doesn't like the light, there also appears to be a light underneath the audio jack right there. Why is it there? I don't know, but so we have a very dim blue light here and here when the unit is turned on. Let's look at our first time out-of-box experience to see if we're standardized or if there's been any modifications. So I'm going to get rid of camera 1. We can watch this together. I expect this to fit the industry standard of not having any bloat and not having preferably any customization other than, you know, not requiring a Microsoft account. I also don't know if we're Windows Home or Pro, or if we are sorry, I'm reading the chat room. I'm losing my train of thought as I'm trying to read the chat room. Andy W6AD said Nemo's charger also plugs directly. Yeah, but Nemo's a discount brand, so I expect it from Nemo. Transvat says hello in the chat. Patrick Manny saying hello. Andy thinks there's probably a lot of empty space in this cube. Yeah, probably. Dazzle555 said there's a version of this PC for 3,000 euros on their website. Yeah, maybe because it has a lot of RAM. I don't know. All right, let's take a look at our setup, and we're going to look at their website and see how they're promoting this. But first, I'm going to do this in a different order than I normally do it. We're going to mix things up today. We'll hit United States, US, secondary keyboard, no. I don't have internet, good. I wanted to see that, so they've modified the Windows installer there, which is good. License agreement. Enter name, we'll put in the name user and a blank password. We're going to leave our location settings on, and that way our date and time will always be maintained. While we're connected to the internet, it will use the internet time clock to make sure that any amount of time we've lost or gained on the internal clock or a result of daylight saving time, it'll just handle it automatically, so you don't have to manually enter date and time. Remember the flashing 12 on the VCR? Okay, we're not living in the 80s anymore, so you don't need to set your date and time manually. You can if you want to live in the past and you want to do everything the hard way. That's your choice. My choice is I don't want to live in the past, and I want to let the technology and the advancements that have been made since then take care of things for me. They don't take care of everything for me, but everything that I can at least offload to the computer safely, like date and time, I'm happy to remove that burden from my shoulders so I can focus on more important things. We've had computers come in for repair where the end user fat-fingered the date, where they fat-fingered the time, and then they're like, oh, websites don't load, Windows Update doesn't work, and then you realize they're 50 years in the past on their clock, or they're 200 years in the future, and they don't. That's why humans should not be messing around with those settings, because they can affect the computer working. It's a really stupid reason for a support call, just saying. Okay, well, it looks good. Let me go ahead and grab the internet cable here, our Ethernet cable, and plug it in the back. Now, because this is a factory image, it obviously came with RAM and storage, and all the drivers should be in there. If you watch that lower right corner, that little globe turns into a little flashing icon as it communicates with our router to achieve an IP address and be allowed permission on the network, which was granted. Then all these icons will fill in once it establishes, verifies the region of the assigned IP address of the router. That can fill these in based on the legalities of our region. So, for example, in Europe with the GDPR, some of this stuff isn't allowed. And of course, there's 192 countries in the world or something ridiculous, each one with their own rules. And this is how Microsoft accommodates different regions. So that's why they're ghosted. They should automatically fill in here. Let's, first of all, I don't need to wait for that. Let's right click and look in our system properties and see what they sent us. They sent us an Ultra 5 225H. That's a really nice processor. This processor just came out. It's got 16 gigs of RAM, and it's Windows 11 Pro 25H2. Remember, we'd start seeing 25H2, and here we go. This is now the third time we've seen it. And so when we're getting new machines, not machines that were built last year or 2 years ago, because theirs are still on the shelves being sold at cheap prices right now. But if a recently new model being released should have 25H2 as the system image. Older models may never get an update to the image because who wants to pay money to pay an employee to redesign the image for a machine that you're selling at a discount that's already a couple of years old? So the consumer can update that themselves in exchange for getting the great price. I think that's the attitude the manufacturers have. Now, with regards to what kind of RAM is this, we're going to look into that. But this is a brand new processor, the Ultra 5 225H. Let me show you something here. Let's click there, click here, click there, and click there. All right. And then we'll say, when was Ultra 5 225H released. Okay, we just want to know when Intel presented this chip to the market. Just over a year ago. And just over a year ago, you couldn't get your hands on one. It was, you know, one of those deals where when a product first comes out, you've got the whole supply chain you've got to feed. So for the first few months, they're pretty hard to get. That being said, it was released January of 2025, and I think that's Intel's latest Ultra 5. I don't think there's one newer than this, but I could be mistaken. Okay, so with that, let me close this and let me change the resolution on this screen to 1080 because this 4K is just too tiny for me. Display settings 1920 by 1080. The image looks clean though. We're not seeing anything suspicious or unusual on this install. This looks the same as when I installed Windows 11. And then let's hit Windows Update. And it shouldn't be missing very many updates since it's already got 2.5H2. I'm going to turn a few little features on that I prefer. And we've got an optional update that just, oh, that's the preview. That's fine, we'll grab it. And then under Advanced, turn off Delivery Optimization, which is great in an office where there's dozens or hundreds of computers to save bandwidth. But for home users, there's no benefit in that. And let's see, we'll check our power settings. I'll type in Edit Power Plan right there. Turn off the display after 3 hours. The computer never needs to go to sleep because there's no batteries to preserve. Save changes, and then this option appears over here. Choose what the power button does. I want the power button to shut this computer down. You can choose whatever you want. This is what I choose. There's no sleep button, so it doesn't really matter what I set this to, but makes me feel better to set it to do nothing. Well, you didn't tell me not to. Okay, well, I'm telling you not to. All right. All right, let's get back over to Windows Update. It looks like that's all it's missing. That can't be right. All right, so while that updates, let's get back over to camera 1. Because while this is updating, what I think I'll do is start bringing up the website and see how they're promoting this. So let me jump over to the Kubb website. We'll bring that up. There it is. And this is the Kubb Essentiel, right? This one they're showing the black edition, 910 euro, and they've got it in multiple colors. Now, if you click on this link and it comes up in French, you see right up here it says English, and then it's got French and Spanish. So just change it from the default to French, change that to English if you want to. That's where that is. In case you're wondering why my screen is in English and yours isn't. Looks like there's a red and an orange, maybe? Oh, that's more of a pink and an orange. All right, and what else? The computer that elevates technology. The Kubb Essentiel is not just a computer, it's a remarkable object, a concentration of design and performance that redefines digital standards. Crafted with care, it embodies the perfect union between minimalist elegance and artisanal expertise, and a cube of clean lines that asserts its style with quiet confidence. I guess they're missing an E on the end. Confident. Beneath its understated silhouette, yeah, I'll agree with that, lies a technological revolution equipped with the latest Intel Core Ultra processors optimized for AI applications. The Kubb Essentiel delivers exceptional fluidity, intensive professional workloads, AI processing, or entertainment, and handles everything with the same effortless ease. Ultra-fast storage accelerates every startup and every load. Its generous connectivity, which is multiple USB A and C ports, dual storage capability, latest generation Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, offers complete freedom across all uses without this latest. Well, this all sounds good, but what are the specifications? So there's a fanless version that I showed you that we have in black. The wood Kubb, ooh, that's interesting, isn't it? The Spectre. This must be like the high-end design for demanding environments. Oh, that's the one that's 3,000 euro. Okay, and then there's one wrapped in leather. Ooh, fancy. Hoity-toity. All right. Can't say I've ever seen a mini PC wrapped in leather before. And you've got the Octo, which is the AMD Ryzen AI Max Pro 395. You know that's going to be pricey. That chip alone is like €1,000. All right, and then there's the Kubb Mini. Oh, that must be what they sent us, the Mini. So what are the specs on this one? What is the CPU, the RAM? It doesn't tell us. What's our storage? That one's out of stock apparently. This one is in stock. Here we go. So we have an Ultra 5 225. So this is the next generation. One would be the 125 there. The number 1 is first generation. 225, second generation. 325, 425, 525, future generation. Memory is SO-DIMM DDR5. That means it is socketable. It's got 2 sticks of RAM that are 8 gigs each. That means if you want to upgrade it, you're going to need to pull those out and replace both of them. It says the NVMe drive is a generation 4, 512 gig. And of course, they've got upgrades for additional prices. And you can even add a second storage, which includes, or is limited to rather, SATA only. So we need to open it up and see that. And the operating system, obviously, Windows 11 Pro. More information here. Well, this Wi-Fi 6, it says it's got the latest Wi-Fi, right? Didn't they promote that? They just made a big deal. Well, the latest Wi-Fi would be Wi-Fi 7, and then the previous would be Wi-Fi 6E, and then the previous to that would be Wi-Fi 6. But in France, it may be illegal to use Wi-Fi 6E and Wi-Fi 7 because they use the 6 gigahertz channel. So from their perspective, they may be right. It is quite possible that Wi-Fi 6 is the maximum allowed in France. Wi-Fi 6E adds the 6 gigahertz channel, and that 6 gigahertz channel in some countries is reserved for other industry. The Bluetooth is 5.2 on, oh, wait a minute. This is the previous generation. This is the Ultra 5 125. This is the one they sent us. This does have the latest Wi-Fi 7, and the latest Bluetooth is 5.4. Perfect. Okay, so that's my bad. I didn't read far enough along. So they're covering both models here, the 125 and the 225. We've got 2 USB 3.2s. The Type-C is a 3.2 that supports DisplayPort output. And there's a 3.5 millimeter audio jack. On the back of the unit, there's 2 USB 2s and a USB 3.2 DisplayPort compatible Type-C. So you could have, what, 4 monitors on this thing at the same time. It's made of aluminum and stainless steel. There's your power supply details there. 90 watts on the Ultra 5 125 and 120 watts on the Ultra 5 225. So if you're wondering which one's more powerful, which one needs more power? It does have the Kensington lock option, which you can buy separately from a third party. It does say an HDMI cable is included. The warranty at 3 years is extraordinary. Usually 1 year is what you get. 2 years is generous. And oftentimes 3 years is available from some at additional cost. But here it's, boom, 3 years. And you can take an extension beyond that if you want to. So that tells you how much they believe in their product. Now, as far as I know, you cannot order this anywhere but from Kubb directly in France. As far as I know, it's not available anywhere else for sale. So depending on this review and you're interested in getting one, especially for our viewers around the world, this may be cheaper for you coming from France. For my friends in the United States, maybe not, but it might be worth it if you want that unique design. And I don't know how to pronounce this. Is this Toulouse? Toulouse, France? And then their parent company is called Bleujour. And this parent company is what manufactures other devices besides the, in case you're wondering who are these people and where did they come from. They're an IT designer and a manufacturer of IT devices, peripherals. And so this is more of the products they make. Just FYI if you want to look into it. Once again, you'll see this is all written in French, so probably change this here where it says Français, change it to English, and now we can read everything. Now I can read everything. You might have been reading it just fine for all I know. They do take PayPal as a payment, and you can reach out to them directly. They're not hiding. They want you to know who they are and how to reach them. All right, so let's go back to, oh, it says about us, the Kubb brand. What does that say? The Kubb brand places the individual at the heart of its strategy, offering an alternative that is both traditional and modern. Since 2014, Kubb has been reinventing technology by breaking away from conventional norms, most notably with its flagship product, the Kubb computer. Driven by passion for beautiful objects and a meticulous attention to detail, we prove every day that the fusion of digital culture, lifestyle, and the tradition of French craftsmanship can give rise to groundbreaking technological solutions. At its core, Kubb is built on innovation and passion, bringing you unique creations that redefine the digital experience. So here's what their first computer looked like. Here's what they've evolved to over the years. This is the first time I'm seeing any of this. I had no idea. That workstation looks really cool. That's already 8 years old. They got an award at Computex in Taiwan back in 2018. There's a fanless design. They were a red dot winner here. And there's the leather version. So 2024 would be the fanless design, a CES winner. And the Evolves, maybe that's what they sent us, the Evolve, the newer version. Find out next week when we look at it. So that's a little bit about who they are, because you know, my goal when I make these videos, it's not to sell you a mini PC, and I'm sorry if you thought that we were making commercials. What I'm trying to do is make an introduction, trying to say, here's a new brand, we've never heard of it before, I can't find it on YouTube anywhere, so let's do it. There's a great opportunity, there's a gap that needs to be filled, let's fill it, let's be the first, and let's do something original. And at the same time, let's give this company exposure, because it's desperately needed here in the United States, because I never heard of them. The fact that they've been around since 2014, that's 12 years ago. This is after 12 years, I finally learned that they exist. And maybe you're also just now learning they exist. Hence the point of this video. I'm going to go ahead and just let that finish installing over here. And in the meantime, do you guys have any questions for me before this completes reboots? And we'll run Crystal Diskmark on it. We can run Cinebench on it. We can look in the BIOS and we can open it up. But I have to wait for this to finish first. So in the meantime, ask away. Edward Bass says hello. Iggy Boy joining us. Yeah, Mark Leibowitz is pointing out, you know, he was ahead of me there on the leather and the wood styling. Asian guy giving us a euro to US dollar conversion there. Marco saying hello. Welcome in, Marco. Soprano says hello. Andy says, so much for the vaunted French design. It does look a little more Scandinavian design, doesn't it? They're very minimalist. But, you know, that's not a trademark on IKEA. Other countries can also adopt what they feel is minimalist. So it's really about the execution. Is it quiet? Is it easy to work on? And of course, visually, this is for people that care about the aesthetic. You can choose other countries besides Scandinavian countries for simplistic designs, and this is a prime example of that. Mark Gaines wants to know if I checked my email. I have not checked my email. Thank you for reminding me. And let's go ahead and restart this computer. And while it restarts, we'll check emails. We have our friend Buster with an Amazon gift card, as always. Thank you, Buster, joining us from Scotland. He says, this is my thanks for tonight's show. I don't think Buster's in there today, but thank you, Buster, when you watch this. Mark Gaines also sends us an Amazon gift card. In lieu of a Super Chat contribution, Mark sends us a $10 Amazon gift card from Northern Ireland. Thank you. Cheers, Mark. Cheers, Peter, Buster. Thanks, guys. Thank you to all our friends in green for supporting us here as well. Ooh, I just heard the fan crank up. I wasn't really noticing a fan before. It's not loud, but there's definitely a fan running in there. I wasn't sure. I mean, I could see the fan on the bottom spinning, but I couldn't hear it. There, it spun up, got kind of loud, and then it quieted back down, so perfect. Voulez-vous? Oh, I'm not going to sing that. Lady Marmalade. Eyes Without a Face, they sing French in that too. I think Games Without Frontiers, they sing Peter Gabriel. I think they sing French. We're just going to do a French themed show. We'll bring out the French dressing, the French toast, and the French fries to honor our friends in France. Mark Leibowitz says maybe someone who was expecting to see a mini PC inspired by the Citroen DS, the clown car. Yeah, that was a cheap car. Americans probably don't even know what that is, but I'm proud of you, Mark. All right, we're back up to the desktop. Let's check Windows updates one more time, just because I'm curious, how is it possible that we got April's updates already? Seems unlikely, unless they updated this themselves before they shipped it to us. Okay, I mean, that's a first. I'll take it. Let me grab my utilities flash drive. I'm just double checking this. Sometimes after a reboot, if you don't wait long enough, the Windows update will scan very quickly and say, oh, there's no more updates. I want the scan to take longer. You notice how much longer that scan is taking. So if that comes back with the longer scan and also says no updates are available, then I know we're clear. And right on target, right on timing, there was another update waiting. A small one, but it counts. All right, let me plug in my flash drive and let's copy over our utilities. And let's see what we got in here. So we'll plug that in. And let me get rid of camera one for a second so I can see the whole screen. Close this and File Explorer. We're going to go to the D drive. And I'm going to bring out, let's see, you know me, I like to put VLC on computers instead of the Windows Media Player. I hate that media player. VLC is just so far superior, much less resource intensive and more compatible without all the advertising. There's my Windows 11 optimizer. And then as far as PC testing software goes, let's take a look at a couple things. We'll grab hardware info so we can monitor our temps while we run Cinebench. But I'm also curious who makes the NVMe drive, so we can determine that with Crystal Disk Info. And I'm curious about Crystal Disk Mark Portable regarding performance. Now, one of the things I tell you guys to be aware of is when you get a new computer, oftentimes whatever the manufacturer has done, they don't clean up after themselves. So as a brand new computer that's never been used before, how much space do you think is being consumed by system temp files at this point? You might be surprised when we check all these boxes. Watch how big this number gets to free up space that is pretty limited on a 512 gig drive. It would be nice to see a manufacturer do this out of the box. That's going to free up nearly 3 gigs of space. That's just one additional step I've never seen a single manufacturer ever take on behalf of their customers. Most customers don't know to do this. So there's 3 gigs less than the advertised storage capacity because they're consuming it because they didn't empty the trash out. So I'm going to empty the trash out for them. While we wait, we can run the Crystal Disk info just to see the make and model of the installed NVMe drive. See what it says. That'll appear here in a moment. There it is. 3DFX is Voodoo making NVMe cards. Okay, well, here you see we've got a power on count of 12, power on hours 22. That's a brand new drive. The drive is capable of going PCIe 4x4, see under supported mode. And the current mode the drive is in is PCIe 4x4. So that's exactly where it's supposed to be. Perfect. This drive D you're seeing, that's my flash drive. Ignore that. We're going to let that run. I guess while I'm waiting, I can install VLC. Yeah. Try and multitask. There's a slight fan noise that's coming from this from time to time as it ramps up, but nothing annoying or loud. If anything, it's reassuring to know everything's working like it's supposed to. Now, the other thing that I'm curious about are driver updates. So if we look in the device manager, let's go here to device manager. Who makes our network card? Let's see. We have an Intel Wi-Fi 7 BE200 and a Realtek 2.5 gig Ethernet port on the back. It's too bad it's not all Intel, but that's okay. Not a big deal. And then we'll go over to our browser and let's download the Intel Driver Assistant. And let's see if there's updates to the video drivers. This we have to click allow on or it won't work. So we're going to download that, open it up, accept and install. Yep. And then I'm going to close this out. And it should automatically reopen once we install. So I'll agree to this, but disagree to that. That's their customer participation program that you can voluntarily send data when it crashes to Intel if it crashes. It sends it anonymously so they can improve the product so your customer experience will be better. I mean, that's not my job. But you can choose to participate. There's no harm in it. And yeah, we've got lots of new drivers. We've got new video drivers. We have new Bluetooth and Wi-Fi drivers. And Intel recently fixed a significant problem they were having with the Wi-Fi connections. Well, I personally have never experienced it. It was a big enough issue that they addressed it. And then our neural processing unit driver. So let's download all of those. The big one is the graphics driver. And then we have information about the computer, just like CPU-Z would bring up here. And details about our config here. 3DFX. Haven't seen that in forever. All right, and then it just needs to complete this. In the meantime, how is our cleanup going? Cleanup is finished. Perfect timing. Let's hit install all. And let's get these updated drivers installed. It's a benefit when you buy an Intel system, especially if it's all Intel. That's why I was a little disappointed that the 2.5 gig network is Realtek, because if it was Intel, it would be included in this driver lookup. It's not that critical anyway. A lot of times these driver updates are pretty specific, and if it doesn't affect you, it wouldn't hurt you to have it, but it also wouldn't help you to have it either. This is just me making sure that everything is current and up to date. So if there are any problems, we're less likely going to resolve those with any updates if we already have all the updates. Capiche? Wait, that's not French. Reboot recommended. Well, let's finish. Let's move on to the next one. This will be the Wi-Fi driver. Next. Accept. Next. Next. It's one thing, if I had a complaint about Intel software, they got way too many clicks to install. They should be cutting the number of clicks in half. But woe is me that I have to use my index finger to push a little mouse button 4 times instead of 2 times. This is what the world's become. Yes, next. See, that one was, oh, no, now we gotta click next again, accept the license, click next again. Now I gotta click typical, then I gotta click install. Like, why do I have to click install after I just said typical? That should also confirm my install. There's at least one additional click that doesn't need to be there. But yeah, I've spent more time complaining about it than it actually takes to click. All right, then this should be the video driver, I think. Yeah, so that's the graphics driver, and that's going to take a minute to load up because it's big. If you don't see anything happen, watch your system tray for something to appear down here, because it could open behind this window, and you're just sitting there waiting for it while it's sitting there waiting for you. Other times it does appear on top like it should, but just know sometimes for whatever reason that can be back behind the window that's open. You'll know. You'll be sitting there and then you'll feel like a fool that you didn't see it the whole time. That was not the case in this instance, but it is sometimes. So just be aware of that. And then this starts loading the installer, which we'll have here in just a moment. Begin installation. Wow, this thing is dead silent right now. I can't even hear a single fan running on it. Waiting, waiting. Okay, agree. Decline that option if you want to. I'm declining it. I don't care what you do. Okay, be honest. I don't care. And then once this finishes, we'll reboot the computer again. So with that, let me get back over with camera 1 on the screen here. Let's see if there's other questions for us. I see lots of Wrath of Khan references to the idea with this. They make the version of this wrapped in leather. And Ricardo Montalban, who at the time was really well known for Fantasy Island, was promoting the, what car was that? With fine Corinthian leather. It's like, what the hell is Corinthian leather? What is Corinthian leather? I'm pretty sure it's just a made-up name. Corinthian leather is a marketing term coined by the Bozell advertising agency for Chrysler in 1974. I was 6 years old, to describe high-quality cowhide upholstery used in luxury vehicles. Most famously, the Chrysler Cordoba, contrary to its name, is not from Corinth, but it is a specially treated fine-grained leather designed to feel soft and luxurious. It's essentially a brand name, Corinthian, for premium or rich leather meant to evoke luxury, not a specific distinct type of leather hides. It was created in 1974 for the Chrysler Imperial, and it was later propelled by actor Ricardo Montalban in commercials for the 75 to 1980 Chrysler Cordoba. Yeah, those commercials aired for years. Finest Corinthian leather. I'm sure you can pull up those commercials here on YouTube. The leather was produced by the Rail Leather Manufacturing Company in Newark, New Jersey. Well, nothing says high quality like manufactured in Newark, New Jersey. Well, there's Rutt's Hut for a deep fried ripper hot dog, but what else is Newark known for? An airport that you use to get to New York? I don't know. I'm just making fun. I'm just teasing. Despite the marketing, Corinthian leather was, in fact, high-grade, standard-issue cowhide that became one of the most famous examples of brand name marketing in the automotive industry. Ask for it by name. All right, looks like our install completed, so let's get that rebooted. Reboot recommended. Now that'll also take advantage of the reboot required for the previous updates. And then testing may begin. So while that loads up, put myself back there. See what we got here in our chat room. What's going on? Oh, there goes that fan again. I'm trying to describe the noise level. If you've ever had water running in your house and you can hear the water in the pipes, it's kind of similar to that. It's not loud, but it's noticeable. Like I said, I don't think that that is a problem at all. It's not loud. It makes me feel good knowing that I can hear that fan from time to time. I don't want to hear it all the time. And if I never hear it at all, how do I know the fan's even working? So there's always this delicate balance between being intolerant to any sound whatsoever. And if you're one of those people, they do make a fanless version of this. So they got your back on that. All right. Let's do Uncle Carey's Windows 10 optimizer on this bad boy first and foremost. That'll just take a second. Optimize all. David Graham said the PC is wide enough to paint a face on it so that when the USB plugs in, it looks like it's a French man smoking a cigarette. Oh, stereotypes. Come on now. Let's see. Press delete to enter the BIOS. We'll do that later. Okay, but that I like how that screen comes up. Very good. And we'll be to the desktop here in just a moment. Perfect. Okay, source projector for me. That's fine. All this looks good. Secure boot is off. Windows is activated. TPM is installed. Everything looks perfect. Perfect. Great job on the installer, Kubb. Good job. I like to make these things visible, so I'll go to taskbar settings. I turn these things off personally. And then under system tray icons, I turn off OneDrive because I don't use it, but I want this visible, this, 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 and this. I want that all visible to me at all times. Otherwise, how do I know if Security Center has an issue if it's hidden? I don't know what Microsoft is thinking half of the time. Why provide this for information and then hide the information by default? But instead, the OneDrive thing, it's optional and you don't absolutely have to have it. That's forward, and probably because they make money with OneDrive, right? Not rocket science here. And that's our Intel driver assistant. That'll give us a little red dot if there's an update available. It won't harass you. It's very subtle, but if that's hidden back here where you've got to hit the arrow to see it, you could have updates waiting for months and not realize it. So for those reasons, I want these in my face, including the eject option here. I don't want that hidden from me either. So let's go ahead and eject the flash drive, and let's go to Crystal Disk Mark, and let's see what kind of performance we're getting out of this 3DFX, whatever that means. Storage drive. I would expect to see about 5,000 to 6,000 on the reads for a mid-range Gen 4 drive. Anything above that would be a higher end Gen 4. And we're right at mid-range, very similar to a Kensington in performance. So I don't know if this is just a rebranded Kensington drive, or maybe they're just sharing the same controller. It does appear, though, to have the kind of performance of a mid-range Gen 4 drive, which is pretty much what I expected. So I can put my flash drive away. We're done with that. You know, I'm starting to wonder if we wanted to reinstall Windows on this, where would we get our drivers from? I didn't even look for any support. Let's go back to their website. And let's bring up the window capture while we're waiting for those numbers to finish. Bring that up. Different configurations, okay. Lots of different price points to meet every budget. Support, where would we find drivers? Anywhere up there? How about down here at the bottom? Well, wait, what about up here? Attachments, what is that? Download. Oh, this just looks like a data sheet. It's marketing material. It is a timeless design. I admit, I agree with that, because you wouldn't be able to tell if this computer was from 2005 or 2030. It is a timeless design. You wouldn't look at that and go, oh, it's so 80s. That's what people do when they see me. I'm okay with it. All right, let's see. What if we go all the way to the bottom? Is there support and assistance? Okay. Oh, that's not what I want. I want downloads. This is good that they want to collect all the information from you right up front rather than go back and forth in emails trying to interrogate the end user. So they want all this information before you can submit your support request, and then they have a box for you to fill in additional information where this stuff maybe isn't enough explanation. But where are downloads? Let's see. Kubb download drivers. Will Google bring anything up? Oh, it wants us to go directly from the Bonjour. Bonjour. Okay, let's try that. And then where would we find it here? Or marketing, support. Manuals and drivers, right there. Okay, right there. Why is it not clicking? Why is that not clicking? Register? None of these are working. Let me refresh the page. Go back. Repair request. Is it the browser that's not working? What's going on here? Okay, let's do this. Let's come back over to this computer. Let's do it from this one, just in case. Maybe I've got I don't think I've got any ad blocking going. Let me get rid of camera one, and let's see what our final numbers are. So pretty low on the writes. The writes are really, really slow on this. But the reads are average. And the writes aren't that far below average. They're a little about 500 megs below average. Maybe even as much as 1,000 megs compared to, say, a Kensington drive. So it's not a great Gen 4 drive in there. It's very much right down the middle. It's not a cheap one, and it's not an expensive one. It's right down the middle. And just barely, honestly, because the write speeds are pretty sad. You can get faster write speeds on a Gen 3 drive. That's how bad those write speeds are. So that's a little disappointing at this price point. However, I'm sure we can change that if we want to, but let me go full screen over here for me, and there we go. Now I can see it. Let's save this. We'll type in crystal disk mark. We'll make that a JPEG file and we'll save it on the desktop. That will appear over here somewhere. There it is. So we've got those results saved. Let's bring up the browser. And we're looking for Kubb driver downloads. Don't know what this is. There's Blazure support. Perfect. That's where we want to go. Driver and BIOS. And nothing. Okay. Back. We are in English, right? Support. Page is broken. Not loading correctly. Huh. Look at that. Where do we download? Let's type in Kubb Essentiel drivers. What's that do? First link. Drivers. Nothing. Well, we're going to let them know that we want to see the drivers. Here's what I'm going to do. Let's close this out. And let's bring up my utility. Oops, my utility right over there. And let's back those drivers up ourselves. Bada boom. Bada bing. All right, then we'll have the drivers. However, I am curious, if we do a complete wipe and reinstall without the drivers, will we be able to find everything we need on our own without any help from Kubb? If we have time, let's explore that. I am genuinely curious. And I'll just keep a backup of these drivers as an emergency fallback. But you know me, I never need an emergency fallback. I always find a way. But I'm showing you what you should do. Don't worry about what I do. All right, completed the driver backup. Great. So let's close that out. And now we have a directory called drivers on the C drive. And there's all of our drivers. How many drivers worth do we have? Looks to be 5.5 gigs. Wow, that's a lot. Okay, well, it is what it is. Don't delete this Windows.old. That is supposed to be there, and Microsoft warns you to leave it alone. It's empty, just leave it alone. All right, what else? Oh, let's bring up hardware info 32, which is really hardware info 64. Let's start sensors only. And let's take a look at what our temps on this bad boy are, because this is no slouch of a CPU. Granted, it's not an Ultra 7 or Ultra 9, but I'm telling you, Ultra 5s are much faster in most cases than the i7s of years ago. We're not going to revisit that comparison, but feel free to type it into Google if you want to see the differences in the comparison. Just type in Ultra 5 to 25H versus, you know, i7 9700K or whatever, and then look through the results. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. Somebody's already done all the math for you. Core temperatures on the CPU appear to be in the 60s, which is a bit warm. And you'll notice how many cores we've got on this bad boy. And we'll scroll that down a little bit, come over to Cinebench. Bring that up. Cinema is a French word, isn't it? And then accept this and then hit start here. And let's see what happens with our score and our temps during this 10-minute CPU torture test. We've already hit 88 degrees Celsius. That did not take long, did it? Hit 90 already. 90 came from where? 92 on Core 11. Whew. I am hearing the fans. That got awfully hot, awfully quick, and that is a little worrying. But it may be that they've set 95 as the cutoff point where it starts to thermal throttle itself to slow down and cool down so it doesn't crash or cause harm. And that would be the best thing you could do aside from putting better cooling in it. And we don't know what that looks like yet until we open it up, but it's not like we're going to change it. And it is just Core 11. All the other cores are a couple degrees cooler. Just that one right there that's hot. But it's not too hot. I would say if it was running at 94, like right now it's running at 86, right? Right, this is our current temperature. This is the highest temperature recorded since we started. This is the minimum temperature recorded since we started. And then if you average all three of these out, that's our average temperature. We definitely want this average to be 90s, okay? But we don't want this to be up in the 90s either, because if it always is in the 90s, then something's wrong with the computer, or you've massively underpurchased a computer for your needs. If you're always pushing it at that point, at that level all the time, you will degrade your silicon much faster, and you will be more than likely wearing that machine out sooner rather than later. But if everything's working like it should, temporarily hitting 94, 95, that's fine. And if you don't hit it, then you're not getting everything you paid for, quite honestly. Or you just have a really good cooling system, which often results in a loud cooling system. Or it results in having a very large case that can help dissipate the heat. Smaller case is more challenging to cool because the cooler's got to get smaller and there's not enough space to really move air around. So it's always going to run hotter in a smaller computer unless you reduce the voltage down and then you lose CPU performance. So you've got to find that balance. Each engineering team works together with management to make these decisions, and those decisions vary from one company to the next. So here they've decided to push it as high up as they can get it and then prevent it from going any further. And I think for most of us that watch this channel, that would be how we would prefer it. Right now the machine is pretty quiet. I would think if it's running at 88 degrees right now on Core 11 that I would be hearing the fan much more than I am. And I really don't hear it right now. Like if anything justified that fan to be running loud, full speed, would be those temps. On the other hand, it's not getting any warmer, so and it's at 90 right now. A lot of the cores are at 90 right now. Look at that. But watch how rapidly they change. We want to see movement. We don't want to see it stuck at 95 or 96 or even in the upper 80s or lower 90s or mid 90s for any long period of time. We want to see that variation occur where it kind of drops and comes back up. If you're getting stuck at 95 and it's not budging, it's not going to 96, but it's also not going to 94, and it's staying that way for 10, 20 minutes, you are overtaxing that computer. That's a you problem, or you've got a cooling issue with your computer. One of those two things is going on. So what we're seeing here is perfectly normal and acceptable, but I'm puzzled why I'm not hearing the fans. I mean, the fan's running, it's just not running at the high speed, and I don't understand why it's not doing that right now. We also don't know if there's an option in the BIOS. For all we know, the fan could be in quiet mode by default, or there may not be any mode at all to change it. We need to find that out once this test is done. Let me bring camera 1 back, and I'm going to put it in the other corner since I'm blocking the results on the right side. And then let me go back over to the chat room and see if there's other questions, comments. Andy wants to know if we can look at the hardware manager. What is a hardware manager? What is that? What do you want to look at, Andy? David says, hey, Carey and chat. Welcome in, David. David Martinez. Mark Gillibrand says, yep, cinema is a French word. Well, there you go. Perfect to run Cinebench on it then, isn't it? Frank Jimmy said it's a breakfast cereal, Cinebench Toast Crunch. Let's hope not. Let's hope not. Max Turbo, according to Ken, is 4.9 gigahertz on this chip. Yeah, it's fast. Andy mentions it's not running a lot of power. Maybe it's thermal throttling. Yeah, it probably is. That's not a bad thing. Thermal throttling is something you want to happen to protect your CPU. On the other hand, you could argue a better cooler wouldn't thermal throttle. But who knows what kind of cooler you can fit in a little cube like that and how much airflow you've got to move. So part of that aesthetic may come at a price. Nobody buys Ferrari because they're reliable. They buy it because it's a beautiful, high-performing car. But it can also be very finicky. And I'm not suggesting this is, but what I am trying to establish with this metaphor is that its design may inherently result in a higher temperature. Now, on the other hand, they do have a version of this that's the previous gen chip, which might run cooler as well. This is the upper echelon of the Core Ultra 5 series of chips, which means it's probably going to run the hottest and be the most challenging to cool, but they're still putting it in the same case that they put the previous chip in. So I don't know how much you can do with the cooler on that. You know, is there more they could have done? I don't know, but it's not crashing and it's not loud, so who cares? This is a matter of getting toxic information that poisons your brain into thinking something's wrong, when it's simply a design choice. Now, whether or not it's a design choice you agree with, you know, that's your issue. That's not my issue, and that's not their issue. Their issue is to sell you a reliable working machine that isn't going to be too loud, and it's going to perform well. And so far as I can tell with these results so far, that's exactly what they're delivering. Remember, we've seen other machines that don't get this hot, but they also probably won't score as high. So if you're willing to reduce your score to lower your power consumption, then you reduce the heat, and then you reduce the effort on the cooler to keep it cool, right? You take all that down a notch. But if you want the performance you paid for, hitting these temps temporarily is exactly what it's supposed to do. Back in the day, if you overheated your CPU, the whole thing would crash. I've even seen AMD Athlon XP processors that cracked in half because they got so hot they split in two pieces. I've got some pictures of it. It's pretty wild. And when I took the CPU out of the socket, it came out in two halves, the right side and the left side. That's just from heat. These chips won't do that. They will shut themselves, they will shut the computer down before they get so hot that they split. So with that in mind, these numbers are fine, and there's almost no fan noise on this at all. So we all have our personal values, we all have our personal preferences and sensitivities. I'm not here to tell you you're wrong, and I'm also here not to agree that you're right, or anybody else but yourself. Engineers are forced to make these decisions, and then depending on how the units sell and if there's any warranty issues that come up, then they modify and change as needed. But you got to start somewhere. And likely what they've done here, given that they've been in business now for what, 12 years or so, is they've already used that previous experience to make up their design choice, and probably decided that many years ago that they know what works now and where they prefer to find their balance. That would be my guess. It's not like they don't know how this runs, right? But we're just discovering it for the first time. And again, we haven't opened it up yet, so we don't know you know, what the cooling looks like. All I see for ventilation on this, it looks like just exhaust air in the back, and that looks like your only intake on the bottom. So with that design, you're very much controlling your airflow to move in one direction, but you're also restricting airflow at the same time. Again, it's an engineering choice. There's no right or wrong here. Andy wants me to look in the device manager, look at the NVMe, and maybe get a better idea of the real brand. Oh, it's going to be branded 3DFX everywhere. I'm not sure what you think you're going to see, but we can take a look at it. I don't anticipate it's going to show us anything any differently. If anything, Crystal Disk Info will show you hidden stuff. But maybe looking at hardware IDs, you're going to look something up. I don't know. Let's just see a look, take a look rather. I can't see the numbers right now. Since the test finished, we're at 11,365. That puts us squarely above an Intel Core i9 9th generation CPU. And our temps, it looks like we hit 100 degrees Celsius, at least momentarily on Core 6. So it does appear that the thermal junction is set to 100, which I think is too high, me personally. The engineers don't agree with me, apparently. But this may be something we can adjust in the BIOS. Yeah. Again, just tapping it, you know, hitting it once in a while is fine. It's what it's designed to do. It just makes me uncomfortable to see temperatures over 95, even briefly. That's my personal thing. Those are my values. Let's go ahead and start the single core test. And while that's running, we can look in the device manager because this won't affect our testing at all. And let's look under disk drives. Yeah, 3DFX. Interesting. Oh, here we go. There's your hardware ID right there. Yeah, I don't know what you thought you were going to find in there, but that's pretty traditional. It's in the old days, they used to, you know, throw different brand names on the firmware, and then when you dug in, you could see who the original equipment manufacturer was, but not these days. They changed that a number of years ago. So unless there's something else you want me to look at, I don't believe you're going to find anything in here that identifies it, anything other than how they want it identified. And again, I'm not quite sure what problem that solves other than just curiosity, right? It's not like that information is beneficial either way because it's not going to change the internal operation of the drive. You'd have to physically change the drive out if you don't like it. So right now, we're running in the 60s on the single core test. It looks like Core 11 is the one doing all the work because I just saw that hit 100 just for about half a second. So again, it's not like it's staying at 100, but they are pushing this chip as hard as it can go, for better or for worse. And it is allowed. They're not they're not exceeding Intel's recommendations here, but they are exceeding Carey's recommendation, which, you know, we might be able to change it in the BIOS. Once we get our final scores on this, we can go in the BIOS and look. There could also be different performance modes like balanced versus quiet versus performance that adjust the output of this so it's not quite so aggressive. I did hear the fan crank up a little bit there, briefly for about 5 or 6 seconds, and then it quieted back down again. We keep looking. Andy says, thanks for looking. I was just wondering. No problem, Andy. I don't mind. Mark Leibowitz said, pardon me for missing this if it came up earlier, but these minis are available right now from Newegg. Luke Greenia was in the right range regarding the price in US dollars. Okay, well, good to know. You can buy these on Newegg. I haven't bought anything in Newegg in years, so I kind of forgot about them. Maybe Mara can add some links for us to Newegg. Montana says RAM doesn't thermal throttle. Who said RAM thermal throttled? Who was talking about? At any point, did we discuss RAM? Or is that just some random, strange comment? Dogs bark. My cat's breath smells like cat food. I need some context sometimes, you guys. I don't know where you're coming from with your comments. Is that in reference to something I said or something somebody else in chat said? Or did you just have a conversation in your head and gave us one piece of it and we don't know? I don't know. I'm so confused. Communication makes a difference when it's done right, so we can understand. I don't know that I've ever seen overheating RAM in my life, but okay, it's not like you can really overclock it. I mean, you can turn on XMP and stuff like that, but not usually on these guys. Mike says, hello from Canada. Love your channel, love your videos, very helpful. Well, thank you, Mike. And we're looking at, it's such a hard screen for me to see when I'm looking in the chat room. Let's see, how much time? We're about halfway through. Okay, nearly there. I want you to pay attention to the average temperature on this one because I think some of you are getting hung up on that 100-degree, right? It just hits that just for a little bit. Some of you are like, hitting it at all is absolutely unacceptable. But according to engineers at Intel, it is not unacceptable. What am I hearing? I think the plastic I threw away is starting to uncrinkle itself. I'm like, is there a bug or something? What is that? All right. Anyway, if you look at the average temps, you'll see that we're fine in the 80s overall. All right. And this is really where, if it was important, this is where it's important. If we're seeing these in the 90s, that would be cause for concern. If you want to slow yourself down and get less performance than what you paid for, there may be the option in the BIOS to do that. My preference would be to leave it the way the engineers designed it. So even though I'm not comfortable with this 100 degrees Celsius personally, it's not hitting it often enough or staying there long enough for that to be a real concern. Furthermore, this kind of a test is very unrealistic. I would be curious what you are doing with this computer outside of running benchmarks that would cause it to hit 100 degrees Celsius. That's not to say that you wouldn't be doing anything legit, but it would be pretty specific and unusual. It wouldn't be a common everyday thing unless it's common and everyday in your specific line of interest or work, in which case you underbought the computer. You should have bought something more powerful. That would be my answer. What's interesting is down at CPU package, I see 101, which shouldn't be possible. Assuming the thermal junction, look at this, 256 milliseconds. So it's 1/4 of 1 second. 256 millisecond average of the hottest temperature of all the digital thermal sensors within the package calculated by the CPU. This is the recommended CPU temperature to watch. Is the whole package together. They are pushing this chip as hard as they can push it, but without causing your system to become unstable. That appears to be the philosophy of the engineering design of this. So if you're not comfortable with that, this would not be the right machine for you. And he says, will we be looking into the BIOS? Oh yeah, for sure. I don't think there's going to be any fan adjustment, but what we typically see in many PCs and laptops are if they're going to have anything, they'll have either, you could set your power levels manually, or they have them predefined as, quiet mode, balanced mode, or performance mode. In all ways, shape, and form, this appears to be in performance mode. However, it may be in quiet mode, and that's why I'm not hearing the fans. There's so many variables that we have to keep in mind here. There may be no option to change anything in this BIOS as far as different modes. There may not be anything other than the default mode. So we'll find that out. We have to wait for the test to finish. We'll get our numbers and we'll take a screenshot. Then we can look in the BIOS. If you want to, we'll open it up, take a look at the inside, and time willing, we can reinstall Windows 11 and see what's going to happen with drivers. If we can't get them from Kubb, where are we going to get them? Probably Intel, except for that Realtek card, that 2.5 gig Realtek network card. So I'm curious how much of those drivers will be installed by default by Windows 11. I'm going to guess many will not be installed because it's a brand new release chip, and those drivers probably haven't made it through the Windows Update verification process. I mean, it's got a 3-year warranty anyway. So if you had a problem with excessive silicon degradation as a result of pushing this thing so hard every day, all the time, that it caused a component failure or a system failure, you'd have 3 years fully covered under warranty on it. That's why you don't need to really worry about it. That's their job. It's going to cost them money if they're wrong, right? And they have to cover a warranty issue. That's not ideal for them. So they have determined that this is the best balance between performance and reliability and warranty and support. Doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but it's not your wallet, right? When you send it in for repair, you're inconvenienced, but the cost of the repair is covered by them. And if they're saying, we're okay with that, we're going to stand behind it for 3 years, there's a lot of engineering math going on with that. Then the question is, well, does that mean at year, 2 weeks after your warranty expires, that's when the silicon degrades? Maybe. But why are you pushing it that hard anyway, my friend? You should have bought a more powerful computer. But if you're just pushing it now and again, it's fine. I don't know that I would ever push it, other than maybe rendering some videos. Since the GPU is built onto the CPU, I can anticipate hearing the fan and seeing the temps rise, but as long as my video renders, and it doesn't crash and I have to start over again, that's what it's supposed to do. When we see companies that, take it like AliExpress, and they're doing this kind of thing, I get a lot more upset over it because it's like you got no warranty, you got no support, or it's very limited. So what are you going to do? They kind of abandon you after the sale. It's pretty common with some of these marketplaces that it's a one and done transaction like a garage sale. And when I have that with a company and I see it's running hot and it's being noisy, I can't recommend it. Now this one, I can excuse its behavior as acceptable given a 3-year warranty. But if you're not listening carefully to the conditions and the context of what I'm explaining to you, then it's very easy for you to misunderstand and think I'm being a hypocrite. I always follow the same rules. And a lot of it has to do with warranty and support. When you have that cushion and that reassurance that everything's going to be okay, trust us, then trust them. You don't need to second guess them. But when you're getting a company that doesn't seem to have any website, they don't seem to have any way to contact them. We've seen many PCs that have no name or identifiable branding on them. They want nothing to do with you. And if those machines are running hot and the fans are running loud, I'm offended by it because you're screwed. And you need to take over and you need to go in there and modify it if you want to build that little cushion of confidence that was not included in the sale, called a warranty and support. This one does have that cushion, so therefore to have to readjust the cushion to me is unnecessary. But those are my thoughts anyway. Andy says at least France is closer than China for repairs. Yeah, and I don't know how repairs would be handled. I don't know if they have a US facility or not. We haven't covered that yet. And it may be a follow-up question for them that we can ask them, along with where's the drivers? Where do we get drivers? And if we need support where it has to go back, we have to mail it. Where are we mailing this? We know that their website has support and you would fill in the forms. Let's say the machine won't turn on. What do we do next? That is a very important factor to consider if you're going to sell this to somebody, right? If I'm going to offer this to a business client and that business client needs their computer to run their business, and then this computer doesn't turn on, they're going to call me. I'm going to go out and look at it, see there's nothing I can fix. Then I have to reach out to the company on behalf of the customer. As far as the company is concerned, I'm the customer. As far as my customer is concerned, it's my problem, not this problem. So I'm the middleman in that, and I need to be able to service my clients very quickly. So the only way I would know how to deal with this, having never done it before, would be to either get that information before the sale or have a backup computer, a spare, that I can give my customer until I get this issue resolved. Hopefully there is a local, local meaning in the US, a regional depot that we could send it. Because if we have to send it out of the country, and it's got to go through customs on the way in, and it's got to go through customs on the way back. And that can take a couple days. I mean, lately customs has been quick. They've been within 24 hours on my deliveries, but and if there's any tariffs, you could be charged a tariff over and over and over again. It doesn't matter that you've already paid. Every time it comes into the country, it's like the first time. So that's why we hope for expediency and cost that there's a regional hub. We don't know. I don't know yet. It does look like, are we about done here? Let's see. Let me dump camera one here for a second. Oh yeah, there's our final CPU score. And it's got to be throttling at 100. That would explain why the temps never exceeded that. And the system never crashed and the fans never really got loud. If you look down here, you'll even see 102. These sensors can be off with a margin of error of about plus or minus 3 degrees. So that's definitely one of the hottest we've seen. But it was only that hot for milliseconds. Multiple times, but it didn't stay at these temps for any long period of time. So these are our results going all the way through. Anyway, let me get a screenshot. And let's see, I hit function print screen on this keyboard. And then we'll open Paint. Edit, paste, file, and save as JPEG. We'll call this Cinebench R23 results. And we'll save it to the desktop. Okay, so we've got our results recorded. That means we can safely close out all the windows, and if we want to go back to compare, we've got our results here. Our scores and our temps are all frozen in time on that screenshot. Let's take a look at the BIOS. Let's do a start, restart, and then get ready to press the delete key. You ready? Let's just start pressing it now. see here. Here we go. Okay, I was pressing it and that should have been plenty of time. It did not work. The timing on that sucks. And that's not this computer, that's just computers. So for that reason, we're just going to go in it this way. We'll go over to Settings. We'll go to Windows Update, Advanced Options, Recovery, Advanced Startup, Restart Now. And then we'll get our Advanced Startup menu and choose to reboot into the BIOS so we don't have to worry about pressing the right key at the right time. That's frustrating. There are two HDMI ports on the back of this unit. In case you were wondering, they're both HDMI. There is no DisplayPort. The reason DisplayPort is mentioned is there's an adapter that plugs into the Type-C connector that adapts the USB Type-C into DisplayPort, and this machine supports it on both the front USB port and the rear USB-C port. And that's how you get the two extra monitors. Troubleshoot, Advanced Options, UEFI firmware settings. Now when it reboots, it'll take us in the BIOS, and let's take a look in there and see if we have any performance modes to choose from. We can also look for fan curves, though again, on mini PCs and laptops, that's not normally a thing. There's our date and time, and it is correct. See, when Windows sets it, it sets it in the BIOS at the same time. Nothing else on this page. Let's go advanced over here. Trusted computing is TPM. CPU config. Again, nothing here for power. Oh, power settings. Power loss on. So what do you want it to do if it loses power? I want it to return to its last state. USB wake up, RTC, okay. Real-time clock. Hardware monitor. CPU smart fan enabled. So what if we disable it? Select CPU fan speed. Well, I guess if you want it to run at 100% all the time and just be noisy, you can do that. Otherwise, that's it. It's one or the other. So I'm going to leave it to the smart fan mode. Hit escape. SATA config. So apparently there's a SATA controller and it's M.2. So we'll have to open it up and see. That's our Realtek 2.5 gig Ethernet connection there. A little bit of information on that. Nothing you can change, it's just information. You can disable Wi-Fi or Bluetooth in the BIOS. That's good for security reasons. And then speaking of security, you could turn Secure Boot on if you want to. And then we're into boot options and exit. So there doesn't seem to be any power level adjustment on this unit. Power settings are literally just like waking up type stuff. In the hardware monitor, I disable that. How do I change this? Do I just type a number, 100? Yeah. I'm curious if that works. Let's hit escape and then go to save and exit. And let's see if the fans are loud. I bet they will be. I don't know why anybody in their right mind would disable letting the computer control the fans. It'll be much better at it than you are. Oh, yeah, that fan is... That's that momentary loudness when it boots. Only it's not momentary. Now it's just constantly high speed. I am curious if we leave it that loud and we run Cinebench, does it make any difference? Let's go back to the hardware monitor. Oh, it's definitely noticeable, that fan noise. But will it be making a noticeable difference in our temps? Let's find out. I don't think it's going to do much, but there's one way to know for sure. We hit our highest temp really on the single core, didn't we? Well, let's just do the multi-core because that just feels more thorough to get all the cores working. And let's see if this makes any difference to our maximum temp, only because I'm curious if you run the fan full speed 100% at all times. I think that fan would start to get annoying. It's not very loud, but the fact that it's there and it never slows down, it never gets quieter, it never gets louder, it's just droning on and on. I can see why you wouldn't want to set that to 100. But again, does it make a big difference in the cooling? If so, it may be worth temporarily overriding it for you to get a project done and then set it back to auto when you're done if you're that kind of a user. Most users that buy this would never even know what the hell a BIOS is, let alone what we're talking about. But for those of you, well, probably all of you, aren't those typical users, that information that you could go in there and adjust it. Is it worth doing? Let's find out. And you don't have to set it to 100. I mean, I could set it to 90 or something, you know what I mean? Like, you could play with it, figure out by running the test over and over, and, you know, reduce the percentage by 10% and wait and see if it makes a difference. And if so, when you start seeing that difference, then start adjusting by half. So if we go down to 80% instead of the default of 60%, and then we see temperatures nearing 100, bring it up to 90. And if we see temperatures at 84, then start breaking that in half. Then go to the difference between them. And then again, the difference between what's left, up or down, depending on your temperatures, until you find the exact right spot for you in your use case, in your environment. Which doesn't mean it's universally going to be good for everybody. But so far, these temps have been really, really good. They're behaving much better. On the other hand, the fan is constantly running. It will not get quieter and it will not get louder. This is just going to be what it sounds like when it's on until we put it back to auto, or we slow it down, bring it down to 90, bring it down to 80. Once we're back down to 60, we're pretty much right where it was. But if we set it manually, it stays there no matter what. So if we set it to 80%, then it's going to run at 80% full time. That should be a bit quieter than what it is now, but it's still not going to be as quiet as if you set it to auto. So depending on what's more important to you, you can make that decision yourself. For me, I think I'd just trust the engineers and leave it alone. So while that runs, let me take a look here in the chat and see what comments we've got here. Bring back camera one, put myself in the corner. Joseph said, I've heard that Windows Secure Boot certificates are expiring in June. Yeah, there's nothing for you to worry about. It all takes care of itself. It's like hearing there's a tornado in Oklahoma. If you don't live in Oklahoma, it doesn't affect you. Essentially, there's a lot of information online that's designed to scare you that you are completely powerless to do anything about. And Secure Boot certificates are one of those things. They'll be adjusted in Microsoft updates. In fact, they probably already have, and the issue's already been resolved. If you do run into any problems in June or July, we're here to help you, but we cannot help you with problems you don't have that you read about. Those are problems that you have interpreting the information as being something you're allowing to affect you that in reality has no effect on you. And therefore, it's just information, and there is no call to action. There's nothing you can do about it. So you'll either get the update and the problem will never happen to you, or you need a BIOS update in order for that to be resolved, which most people will not have to get a BIOS update. Unless you bought from some shady seller like AliExpress or something like that, something on Facebook Marketplace, some unknown manufacturer, then that's a different story. But everybody else on the up and up buying legitimate products, it's a non-issue. So please do not let information online manipulate your state of mind, because it doesn't change reality and there's nothing you can do about it. So it's just information. It is not a call to action. Even if you wanted to do something, there's nothing you can do. This is between Microsoft and the manufacturers, and the articles you're reading are just telling you what the Microsoft and the manufacturers are doing. There's nothing you can do about it. Now, if you do have a problem in June or July, you let us know and we'll help you get through it. Other than that, it's just a way to keep you scared and keep you worried, and that's how they get clicks, and that's how they make money. And they'd say, we're not trying to scare anybody. Don't you think people have a right to know what Microsoft and the manufacturers are talking about? Not if it's creating public fear. Do you think if there was an alien invasion that the government would tell you? Of course they wouldn't tell you. They'd say, oh, it's all a lie, because people will overreact and people will get guns and then we're going to have a war with another planet. You cannot let the general public in on some of this information because they don't know what to do with it and they're powerless, but they don't realize it and they end up creating problems. You don't want to tell people, hey, there's a massive fire and everybody trample each other to get out. Just say, we'd like everybody to evacuate the building. Why? Don't worry about why. We just, in an orderly fashion, once you're out safely, then we'll tell you what happened. This is how you have to treat the general public, and this is exactly why. They panic, they overreact, and they're usually powerless and just making a bad situation worse. And so because of the information online generating clicks without any accountability or responsibility to those writing the articles, any sort of panic or expenses that are endured by the poor victims of reading their stuff is not their responsibility. So, just so you know, not all information is useful to you other than trivia. And this, as far as boot certificates go, would be a trivia question. Mark Leibowitz said, to quote a guy I knew in the late 1990s, there's a lot of information on the internet and some of it is even true. Good luck. Good luck sifting through it all. There's diamonds in the dumpster, but you got to dive through a lot of garbage. Sift through tons of it to find little tiny diamonds. But they're in that dumpster. If you want to smell like trash and get in there with all the sewage, go ahead, if it's worth it to you. So right now, let me check in on these temps. Again, I can't see that when I'm in the chat room, so I have to go full screen to read it. With the fans running full time, look at the difference that's made. 84? That's significantly different, isn't it? And look, we went from one extreme to the other. We went from 60 to 100, but there's also 40 numbers in between that we could try. So if you kept running this test over and over again, at some point you're going to find for you in your environment, and this particular test in my example, and then I'm in Phoenix and it's a warm day, I'm going to get to a different number than you are. But what I'm suggesting is, it's making such a big difference between 60 and 100. Maybe we split the difference and try 80. Set the BIOS to 80. But that also means the fans will run at 80 constantly. When it's on auto, this thing is nearly silent. At 80, it won't be silent. It should be quieter than it is now, but it's just going to drone on and on and on. It doesn't matter how quiet it is. If you can hear it and it's droning, it will get on most people's nerves over time. But just so you know, that is an option that you could explore. So because I've set it at 100 and it has made a massive difference in cooling, that's not the end of our test. We could then say, well, what about 90? What about 80? What about 70? And find out, maybe just a bump to 65 is all it needs. But it will run at that speed regardless, versus if you set it to auto and don't worry about it. We got 20 seconds left. This should be the final run, and then we'll get our score and our final numbers, which then begs the question, well, what about the single core? Because that one ran a little bit hotter, didn't it? So I'll run the single core because now I'm genuinely curious. After that, let's go ahead and open this up and see what it looks like on the inside and how serviceable it is. David Graham said, with all the empty space, you'd think it'd have a huge fan and heatsink. Well, maybe it does. And maybe there's not much. I mean, you're making assumptions, David. Have you seen the inside of this? Did you get here before me? Have you got experience with this unit? Or are you just coming up with all these assumptions? I don't know how you're coming to all these conclusions without verifying anything you're assuming to be true. There may not be much free space in this at all. Maybe like that. On the other hand, maybe all of it. I mean, I don't know. I'm a technician. I can't tell you until I open it and look. So until I do, I would not be making those assumptions. But that's me. I just don't do that. I need verification, then conclusion. We don't know that there's much empty space in this at all yet. You're making an assumption, or you have information I don't have. I'm still curious what this little piece is in the back. It's like a plastic. There was no user manual, was there? Oh, those are like rivets. I don't know what that was for. Some option somewhere. But yeah, I mean, this thing may only be this tall. This could be empty space. It's possible. But we'd have to open it up to verify that first. And are we done yet? Let's see. Screen. Yeah, that one finished. Let's go ahead and do this one just because I'm curious. That has made a massive difference. Most people that will buy a computer like this will be using it in an office. And in that office, they'll be using Microsoft Word, Microsoft Office, Google, Gmail, Outlook, Adobe Reader. They may have some proprietary software if they're an accountant, maybe tax software. If they're real estate, MLS. If they're day traders, depending on, if they're Charles Schwab, and they might have those applications. This should sail through all of that, no problem. So I'm not quite sure why we have an audience obsessed with extremism, but it does not represent an average computer owner, and it shouldn't represent even the way you use your computer. So if you buy a unit like this, and you are concerned of hitting 100 degrees Celsius, I would love to know, how can I duplicate what you're doing? What is it you're doing? Are you just running benchmarks all day? Are you doing anything that actually matters to work in content creation? And if so, why did you buy something so low end if you needed something more powerful? That's likely where I'm going with this. But just to show you that it's possible by going into the BIOS and taking control of it, 99.9% of consumers that would buy a unit like this don't know what a BIOS is. They don't know how to get into it, and nor should they. Just leave it as it was intended. Trying to fix problems you don't have based solely on your imagination and anxiety is definitely an enthusiast activity. Nobody can stay in business doing that. And being worried about things that aren't affecting you and trying to circumvent things that never would have happened is a complete waste of time. And it's really just like, I wonder what happens if I push this button kind of mentality. If there is a negative consequence that you're suffering from as a result, then I need to verify that you've correlated the problem correctly, just to verify that it's not something else that you're misunderstanding. And as a technician working professionally, where an enthusiast might be off-put by that suggestion that they might be dealing with more of a psychological issue, people can get offended by that. But the fact of the matter is, if I was charging you for my time and I told you that that runs exactly the way it's supposed to, and the problem is with your understanding, and you said, well, then you're not giving me what I want to hear, so you can get lost, I'm okay with that. I don't want customers like that. So the computer isn't there for you to improve it. It's already been designed. If you want to design your own, then, you know, let me review it and I'll tell you what I don't like about it and see how you like it. You know what I mean? Like, it goes both ways. The engineers that work on this, they've got to meet the requirements of management. It's not one person deciding their own personal values. It's a team of educated and experienced individuals voting essentially on what is going to sell, what are most consumers going to want. And if that's not what you want, you're probably better off building your own, just in general, right? Or pick something else that more aligns to your values. But I wouldn't insult the company because they don't share your values any more than the company would insult you, right? It's mutual respect. You just go, I don't like Dr. Pepper, but that doesn't mean Dr. Pepper's bad. It's just not my jam, not my pop. It's not my soda. That's cool, no problem. That doesn't make it wrong. It doesn't make you right. It's just a preference, and you are welcome to your preferences. But let's identify what's a real problem with design versus what's a problem that people are creating in their heads. Because I don't like it. Why not? Because I don't. Okay, that doesn't work in a scientific community. We need verifiable, reproducible problems to identify if there's a design flaw that can be improved. Not a perspective that's one-sided, sort of this tunnel visioned idea of one way is the only way, which individuals often, you'll see that most often in individuals. You won't see that in corporations other than in policies and procedures, which again are typically dictated by a group of people, not just one person. Sometimes it's one person, but these days not so much. These days it's mostly by committee. And so you get the average. You know, we live in a world where everybody seemingly is this entitlement that they want everything their way and anything else is vulgar and scammy. I don't know when the world changed, but we used to live in a world of compromise and sacrifice, and that seems to have gone away. It became demanding and gluttony, and then people don't want to pay for it. They'll complain about the price. It's tough to sell to consumers. Now, with businesses, it's a different story. Businesses have certain measurable, scientifically measurable goals that have to be met. So if a company isn't meeting those, they know exactly what they need to do. But one person watching a video with a specific attitude does not represent the majority of the thought process of owners. And I think it's important that we all stay in our lane, right? You're not doing anything wrong. But to be intolerant and to further suggest that because it doesn't align with your values makes it wrong, that's where I have an issue. It's like, well, no, it's just wrong for you. Doesn't mean it's wrong for anybody else. So I don't have a problem with any of this. If I've not made that clear enough, it's fine. And I can't see anybody using this that would be running it at a level that we're demonstrating here. This is so egregious of a performance test. It does not represent real world. But if that's how you're using it, if you say, oh no, Carey, that's my real world, then you shouldn't be looking at this computer, period. That's again, it's a problem with the person that needs to be fixed, not a problem with the computer. Now it looks like our temps really climbed up on the single core, didn't it? Went up about 12 degrees, but still hasn't exceeded the 100 by keeping that fan running at 100% at all times. And that suggests that if we lower that fan to 80%, well, it probably won't make too much of a difference on the multi-core test. It likely will put us back at 100, would be my guess, based on, you know, seeing where it's already climbed to 96. So we're not that far away from 100 at 100%. So in that case, just know it's an option. It's there. I don't recommend it, but it's there. You can have that thing run at 100% at all times. Have that noise drone on and on. But I would suggest you under-purchased and you should have bought a more powerful computer if that's your normal, okay? It'd be like, you know, buying a little two-seater sports car and you got a family of 4 and you're trying to figure out how you're going to get everybody to fit. You bought the wrong car. Complaining that the car was poorly designed, it wasn't designed to carry a family of 4, that's a bad purchasing decision. Didn't understand what you bought. That's not the manufacturer's fault. There's nothing the manufacturer did wrong. But if you want to buy a 2-seater car for a 4-person family, they'll gladly take your money. That's not their fault. All right, let's get back over to the chat. Andy says the parent company link has a driver manual link, but nothing happens when I click it. Yeah, that was the same problem we had. We kept clicking the links and they weren't doing anything. Andy says he finds a bit of fan noise comforting. I do, as long as it's, momentary. I don't want to hear it constantly, though. But, to each their own on that. Some people might find nails on a chalkboard comforting. Not me. David Graham says, white noise. Oh, yeah, that'd be fine to sleep to. Oh, that would be totally different. If I had this by the side of the bed at night when I'm going to sleep, and it's a very expensive white noise machine. But that would accomplish being white noise for sure, because it's just loud enough, right, to kind of drown out quieter sounds, like if you're at a hotel and you're hearing a couple in the room next door. This isn't quite loud enough unless you moved it really close to where your pillow is to drown out those noises. Anything very loud, this fan isn't that loud. But to be sitting at an office, answering emails, looking up database items, and talking to customers, I wouldn't want this noise for 8 hours a day at my desk. That's all I'm saying. There's Mitch Morrison joining us. He says hello. He's got a dad joke. What has 2 wings, a tail, and breathes fire? A chicken with heartburn. Happy Friday. Thank you, Mitch. Hope you're doing well, my friend. But there's nothing worse than a chicken with heartburn. And then hopefully we'll get to our end result here soon. It looks like we're on the final run. And let me take a look. What is our temps? At this point, we're at 96. So that's a good 5 degrees cooler than previous runs. I don't remember what our score was before. We're at 12,342 on this. And before, let's minimize. This will still run. We're not affecting the benchmark. What did we get before? Oh, yeah. We went up over 1,000 points, didn't we? 11,365 in 1958. 11,365 in 1958. And we're sitting on yeah, I mean, that's almost 1,000 points. And then this was 1958. And when it fills in these last 2 rows, we'll get a number to compare that to. So because it's not thermal throttling, we got better performance, but we also have a consistent noise that we didn't have before. So pick your poison. You have options, and having options is a good thing. I appreciate that they've given us that option. I do wish that there was like a quiet mode and a performance mode and a balance mode in the BIOS, but it is what it is. I normally just leave it at default anyway, which would be balanced mode. And I'm going to guess that's likely pretty close to what they set it to. I kind of feel like they're more towards quiet mode. But between quiet and balance, depending on the manufacturer, there may not be much difference. It's hard to know since I wasn't in the meetings when they were deciding this stuff. Okay, final row being drawn now. So 1958 was the score we had prior. And since their multi-core score was higher, significantly higher, I would assume to see a similar result in our single core as a for lack of thermal throttling. Let's see. Yep, from 1958 to 2012. So not as big of a difference, but we're looking at about, what, 50, 60 points difference, thereabouts. That's a significant percentage increase, don't you think? Look where it came here on the test. Oh, there's our previous score right there. Silly me. That means we can look at our multi-core here. Single core, multi-core. Yeah. So that's us now, the orange, and this was us before in the reddish brown color there. And we're competing at Threadripper and Xeon levels based on Cinebench R23's numbers. So let me grab a screenshot of these results. Let me turn off camera one for a second. And then we'll hit function, print screen, come down here to paint. And then we'll paste that file, save as JPEG. Now, since we've already saved it prior, we'll say results with fans at 100. Okay, done, done, done. I am going to try and get into the BIOS again the hard way. Let's hit reset, or restart rather. And I'm going to wait for the Kubb logo to appear. And then I'm going to start pressing delete over and over again. Just waiting. Here we go. Delete, 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 delete. Hey, that worked. So I guess I was pressing it too early before and screwed myself. Let's go back to hardware monitor. Whoops. Hardware monitor. This fan noise is going to drive me crazy. And let's put that back to enabled. Escape and then save and exit. There we go. Oh, the fan finally quit silent. Thank goodness. All right. Again, some of us are more tolerant than others. I don't mind it from time to time, but the fact that it just drones. You sometimes see these Jeeps, you know, these four-wheel drive short vehicles with the big tires. And when you drive next to them, you can often hear their tires. And you think, that's fine going to the grocery store or driving across town, but I would not want to take a road trip across the country and listen to those tires every second of every hour you're in that car, driving for 29 hours. No. You can do it. Maybe it doesn't bother you, but that would drive me insane. I'd rather just get on a bus. All right, let's change our background. I'm just going to personalize this, and we're going to change the background to a Windows 10 theme. Okay, so now it's nice and silent. No noise is coming out of this at all. That's what I prefer. Let's shut her down, and then we're going to come back over to camera one, and we'll go full screen over here. And let's open this thing up, see how serviceable it is. You know, in a world of copycat cookie cutter mini PCs, and I've made this clear, I feel the same way about everything. If it's a car that looks like every other car, if it's not unique, if it's not out of the box thinking, I'm bored. I'm just like, really? That's all you could do? That's the best level of ingenuity you have, is to copy somebody else? So when we get something unique like this, that in and of itself puts it in favor, from my perspective, that we're finally looking at something different. I keep going back to Minisform time and time again because they continue to offer such unique designs, but at the same time, they do cost more. When you want to stick with a standard 4x4 or 5x5 mini PC and they all look alike, they all mostly perform alike given similar specs, then you're just shopping for price. That's so boring to me. That's like trying to find the most basic transportation Yeah, you can buy a white little cheap car and they're everywhere. They're not fast, they're not reliable overall by comparison, and they all look alike. So is that a Toyota? Is that a Buick? I can't even tell anymore. Bring on the ingenuity. I feel the same way about films. Show me something different. Stop showing me the same movie over and over again. What happened to creativity and imagination? So I will do what I can to fight for the idea of being different and carving your own path, rather than just duplicating what somebody else did before you. That's just boring, lazy, and uninspiring. Let's take the 4 screws off the bottom. Let's go to camera 2 so we can get you a close-up. We'll move these off to the side. It's all metal. It's not plastic. Oh, this is interesting. While it's upside down, the weight of it is starting to fall in. I don't know if you can tell. You hear it? So there's definitely empty space in there. I don't know how much. I'm not sure how you're supposed to get this out if it's, you know, it's hanging by a screw. That's not a great design. So maybe you set it on its side. Stay. Okay, there's our 4th screw. And in theory, this should just slide out the back here. Let's move that, so you can see what I'm seeing here. When you're looking at this, it looks like from this point forward is empty space. So to measure that, I'm just curious if it's half. This case is 4.5 inches tall, and this part right here puts it at 2.25. So it's almost 50% of blank space up there. So that's going to be your airflow. Is that a lot? I don't know. Let's take this out. Aha. Oh, that's why there's free space. Okay. Okay. Let me bring this up to camera 1 and let me explain this to you. Sometimes you'll see mini PCs, they're called slim. That means they don't have a 2.5-inch drive bay. They need to add another 1/2 inch to the height to make room for a drive to go in there. And then this is your SATA connector for a 2.5-inch drive. So now suddenly, you know, well, I guess we're still at the top of this, right? We're still half available for space. There's your RAM right there. There's your CMOS battery right there. There's your NVMe drive right there. Underneath the NVMe drive is the Wi-Fi card that is fully socketable and replaceable. You've got a bunch of pinouts that don't seem to do much, where they're not being used, I should say, on this unit. And then that's your heatsink for your CPU and your fan for your CPU down here on the bottom. And this does look like it fully disassembles. If you take out these 4 screws, then you would lift this entire motherboard off of there. And then these 4 screws that hold this drive tray together, these can come out and give you full access to the top of the board. Let me show you. Let's come over here, because this 2.5-inch drive bay, in my opinion, shouldn't be in here. This is 2026. We shouldn't be doing this anymore. But for those of you who want to live in the past, this is for you. But for the rest of us, that means this is always going to be in our way if we want to upgrade the NVMe drive, the Wi-Fi card, or the RAM. This has to come out to get to it. Not a big deal. It really isn't. It's just would be a lot easier if this wasn't there. They could also reduce the size of the case by a good ½ inch. Oops. All right, so that's our bracket. I'm going to just bend it down this way. Now we have full access to the NVMe right there, the Wi-Fi card underneath, CMOS battery, and our RAM. If you're curious about the brand and model of RAM, let me take it out and I'll show you. Let's go back to camera 1 and I'll walk this over to the camera. So we have 2 sticks, they're 8 gigs each, easily replaceable, DDR5, 5600 speed, CAS latency, says 46. It is also labeled 3DFX, the same as the NVMe drive, whoever this is. Okay, both storage and RAM are made by the same company. Put that bad boy back in there. Wi-Fi card, let me take that out and I'll show it to you. Not the Wi-Fi card, the NVMe drive. Let me take that out and I'll show you. Where did that other screw go? There. Don't want to lose that one. Okay. I'll bring this up to the camera. There you go. We leave no stone unturned, no mystery unsolved. Everything is explainable. And then if you're curious about the Wi-Fi, let me just unplug this. I need my magnifying glasses to see that connector. I don't want to break it. Oh, I see. This lifts up. I need a little tool for that. Where do I have? Is that going to do it? Yep. There we go. Now I can bring this up and show you. If you're wondering, that this little cutout that I kept referring to, I said it's riveted in, that's the Wi-Fi antenna on the other side. I think this, I can't tell, is that metal or plastic? It looks like what they did to get around the metal is they cut a square hole and filled it with plastic and then glued the antennas inside of the plastic so that it gets around the metal shield. That's ingenious. I really like that. That's my USB dongle for the keyboard and mouse right there. That's your 2.5 gig Realtek network card. There's your 2 HDMI. USB Type-C that'll support DisplayPort out for a 3rd monitor, and a USB Type-C that supports DisplayPort out for a 4th monitor. Then your 2 USBs, your 3.5mm audio, and your power button. Again, if you take these 4 screws out down here, then you can see how they're connected to that post, and this whole thing comes open, and that makes it super easy to work on. If there should be no reason for you to have to take that out, but you can. It's not rocket science. They didn't glue it in there or make it more complicated than it needed to be, and I appreciate that. Now let me put the NVMe drive back in. And there is only one M.2 slot. So basically you get one M.2 that's Gen 4x4 and one SATA for a 2.5-inch drive. Which again, it should be obsolete and not used in Carey's world. In your world, I can't say, but if that's the case, I don't want to live in your world, okay? I don't want to live in the past. Now let's get back over to the camera just to show you the completed, full assembly with RAM and storage without the cover over it. That's what it looks like. Cover my face. Focus. There it goes. It's a clean design. It's easy to work on. Can't say that for all mini PCs. And we don't normally have to work on them, so it's not that big of a deal either way. But interesting solution with those antennas, though. I would have never thought in a million years that's what that was for. So anytime we're thinking outside of the box, even if it's in a box, I love it. Bring more of that, please. More of that in my world. Now let's put it all back together. So we put that connector back in there. Easier said than done, I guess. Let's go to a close-up on camera 2. I'm trying to get it in there straight. There it goes. That's better. And then push that little plastic piece down, and that should lock it. There we go. That should hold on to it. I'd say that's working. And then I just bend this down this way to realign it. And then put the same screws right back in there that we took out. These were actually pretty loose in there. I'm going to tighten them a little bit more than they came from the factory, just because they just seemed to be awfully loose when I took them out. Now don't tighten them down yet. Wait till we get all 4 of them going here. Just in case you need to wiggle some things to get them to line up. Oops. I think my screwdriver is losing some magnetism. So I'm tightening these down till they get to a firm stop, and I'm not taking it any further, but they were pretty loose. So this is, when I say I'm tightening it tighter than it was, I'm not over tightening. Wow, this thing is heavy. It says Kubb right there. Other than that, there's no other writings or markings on this. So this is the rear, obviously. And this is going to go around like that, I guess. Is that right? No. Other way around, Carey? That probably makes more sense. But you can imagine what a challenge this has got to be to hold this because it wants to fall. So I guess turn it onto its side. And while it's on its side, get 2 corners started. So we'll do that corner there. And we'll do this corner down here, the opposite corner. And then that should hold it in place for us. I don't know why these screws aren't sticking very well to my magnetized driver. Very strange. All right, well, it is what it is. So with those two screws holding the unit up, we shouldn't have any problem getting these last two in. Oops, we'll get that in a second. Try it over here first. Again, I'm not going to tighten this all the way down. I need to get that screw I just dropped to put in there. I think I see it right down here on the floor. Hold on a second. Is that it? Nope. Bear with me for just a moment. The last thing you want to do is drop these little teeny tiny screws, because I have a black mat and it's a black screw, so I have to look very carefully also into the black carpeting. It'll just blend right in. There it is. You know, I couldn't see it, but I ran my hand over the carpet and I felt it. So there you go. Happens to the best of us. But that magnetism just doesn't really hold on to those screws very well. So I'm gonna blame the screwdriver. Let's get the magnet closer, I guess, Carey. Get that one little guy in there. Go on in, you good thing. Go on. That's better. Now we'll go around and hit opposite corners on this just to make sure it's going to be happy and solid in there. It's definitely not the most secure design we've seen. You know, there's no plastic clips or anything to help guide it. But, you know, screws do their job, so it is kind of a simplistic design. That does make it easier to work on. Let's make sure we didn't break it. Let's plug it all back in, make sure it still works. HDMI. Doesn't matter which HDMI port you use. Either one is fine. Power, keyboard and mouse, and Ethernet. Okay, Ethernet. And turn this back on. I don't know how well the camera will pick up, but there's a little blue light in the middle of the button. There is some light you can kind of see coming out from inside. See the blue? You can actually see it from the bottom better than you can from the top, but that's good if you're sensitive to noise pollution. Let's go to, let's see, we want to go to this input. And, oh yeah, it's already booted. Perfect. So, get my chair adjusted here. Feels like a pretty thorough review today. We got through a lot. Am I forgetting anything? I think as far as like doing a wipe and reinstall of Windows and figuring out the driver locations or what drivers we're going to need, we'll save that for a dedicated show. We'll do a part 2 on this. And that'll give us a week to reach out to Kubb and say, hey, we want to reinstall Windows. Where do we get the drivers? Now, we've already got the drivers, but we're not going to tell them that. I want to find out if I wanted to wipe and reinstall Windows, can I get everything I need online from Kubb, or do I have to source it from other places? And I want to give Kubb an opportunity to address this and ask why some of the links on their website are highlighting, but they don't click. There might be a problem they're not aware of, or maybe they're working on something that we're not aware of. And we want to give them, we're going to give them a week and see if they provide a solution for us. If not, we're doing the show anyway, regardless, and we'll get it sorted and figured out. But I'd like to see, at this price point, from a company like this, I'd like to see better support with regards to the manual being available and the drivers. So we'll save that for a future video. Other than that, is there anything else I might have overlooked? Can I leave the 2.5-inch drive tray out? It does appear that it could come out. Yeah. Yeah, it looks like you could take it out entirely. I don't know why you'd want to. It's not hurting anything. But because it's on the opposite side, it doesn't affect, these screws down here will still go in the same. So yeah, you could remove it. Frank Jimmy said screws that fall on the floor disappear like lost socks in the dryer. Yeah, don't talk to me about lost socks in the dryer. We've lost socks from the washing machine to the dryer, and I always find them every single time. I don't go, oh well. No, everything stops. That sock is here somewhere. Sometimes it falls out. You bring in the laundry, carrying the laundry, and it falls out of the basket and it's on the floor, somewhere between the path between the room and the washing machine or the dryer. Sometimes it's stuck to the inside of the spinner on the washing machine. Look in there, there it is. Sometimes it's caught in the corner of the dryer. I find them. I'm really good at it. I'm like crocodile hunter for socks. Put that on my resume. Frank Jimmy said you need some screw be gone spray on magnetism for the screwdriver. Is that a thing? I've never heard of spray on magnetism. Is that a joke or are you serious? Let me Google this. If there's spray on magnetism, I'll wear it. I don't know what draws me to you, Carey. Oh, it's my spray on magnetism. Krylon makes magnetic primer paint designed to make walls or surfaces magnetic. I had no idea. That's crazy. I don't have problems normally with that, the magnetism of that driver I use. But whatever they're making the screws on this mini PC with, or whatever they're painting them with, they are magnetic. They will attach to a magnet, but they're not very strongly attached, which I think is the paint that they're using. So it would require a more magnetized driver than what I'm using for it to really hold on solidly like I'm expecting it to. Frank says it's a joke. Well, Frank, apparently it's a real thing. He says it really exists. Holy cow. There you go, man. I always think of like an idea, and I think, well, somebody must have thought of this, and now you've got Google. But I used to think, like, back in the 80s, why do I have to take the cassette out and turn it around? Why can't they just run the cassette the other way and turn the head around, or give the head two heads on the one head, so that way it could run in either direction? And eventually I found cassette decks that had my idea. In fact, I ended up buying one. One of the earliest ones I saw was from the 70s. Might even have, yeah, it had to be from the 70s, where it actually ejected the disc, ejected the cassette, flipped it around, and brought it back in. I guess that's one way to do that accomplishment. The one I ended up buying had a smaller tape head, reading head. Well, it's a read and record head. And what it would do is the head would recess into the player away from the tape, rotate 180 degrees and go back. And it did it in an instant. It just went chick, chick. And then the cassette would run the other direction. And you didn't have to turn it around. Why this is helpful is, let's say you wanted to record something on the radio. I like to record the morning radio guys when I was going to work, and I couldn't listen to it at work, but I wanted to listen to it later. And I could put a 90-minute cassette in there, which is 45 minutes on each side. And the morning show, radio show, was like 3 hours. But the funniest parts were usually in the first 90 minutes. So I would set that on a timer to auto-record the radio station. This is the 90s, early 90s. To auto-record the radio station, and when it reached the end of the 45 minutes, flip over and record the next 45 minutes. And when I got home from work, I would fast forward past the music until I got to the points where they were all talking and telling jokes. They'd have like helium hilarity on Fridays where they'd suck in helium and tell a joke. And it was hilarious. And then I would take those parts and cut those out and save them to another cassette that has nothing but the funny bits of the morning show. And I did that for a couple of years, and oh man, it's still fun to listen to. I've since converted them into MP3s. But at 93.3 KDKB in Phoenix, Arizona, there was Tim and Mark. And I think maybe Tim has passed and Mark retired, because I wanted to reach out and send them like my best of. But they're like, you know, why? They take the helium hilarity is what they called it, so they get their high-pitched voice. Why do women wear makeup and perfume? And then they'd all repeat, I don't know. Why do women wear makeup and perfume? And then another hit of the helium. Because they're ugly and they stink. It's like, what? And then there would just be joke after joke, and I didn't want to miss it, especially on Fridays when they did it. And so by having an auto-reverse cassette deck, I didn't have to worry about, you know, missing the time or running out of tape. I got to double the amount of time. But there I was having this idea, and it turns out it had already been invented. So I find now, by using Google, any ideas I have, they're pretty much already invented. Someone's already thought of them. And there's your magnetic paint. You meant it as a joke, but no, not so much. Frank Jimmy said many drivers here in Florida need to refill the blinker fluid in their car. Oh, well, I went to Florida and it seemed like people overfilled the blinker fluid because all they did was drive with the left turn signal on the whole time. Frank Jimmy says, I don't mean to brag, but when I go to the store, the cashiers are always checking me out. I mean, Mara compares me to Matthew McConaughey all the time. She's like, you are nothing like Matthew McConaughey. See, that's how she compares me, just to remind me. All right? All right. All right. Okay, I think I don't see any other questions about the mini PC. Like I said, we'll do the wipe and reinstall to figure out what's going on with the drivers and give Kubb an opportunity. We'll give them a week to provide a solution. Whether or not they provide the solution, the show will go on with or without them. I'm hoping that they'll be responsive and appreciative, that we bring it to their attention, and that they provide us an answer that makes it a lot easier than what we might have to do. But one way or the other, we're doing it. It's one of the things I learned in life early on, is stop relying on other people to do their part of the job before you do yours. I'm doing my part of the job regardless. And I'll tell you when I'm going to do it. So I don't want anybody complaining that I didn't give them a chance. And it's like, no, you had notice. I am not postponing what I'm doing because of you. I've missed out on trips in my life because a friend didn't show up, and I'm like, do I leave without my friend? Or are they in the hospital? And I end up not going on the trip, all because I invited a friend and, you know, maybe even lost a refund on getting tickets back because of a friend being such a jerk. So after that happened to me, I said, from now on, if that ever happens again, I'm going without my friend, because I'm not going to eat this ticket price. Where I said I was going to be, and I'm waiting to leave, and I thought I'd be sharing this trip with a friend, but it turns out that friend doesn't feel the same way I do because they didn't show up on time. That will only happen to me once. So because that happened to me, I have vowed it will never happen again. So if I tell you I'm doing something at a certain day and a certain time and you're invited, you are not required. Whether I hear from you or I don't, if you're there on time, let's go. And if you're not and you don't call me and you don't explain what's going on, I'm leaving without you. In much the same way, we hope to hear from Kubb with answers, and if we don't, we'll do it without him. I'll let you know when we do our follow-up. Probably about a week from now or so. I'm not sure yet. Next Wednesday, we're going to do the part 2 on the GMK Tech K15. And then we got some benchmarks to run on that. What else? We've got more mini PCs to review. We've got PCs from Cambrui, AUStar. We've got an offshoot of Gatorly that we purchased called Glorlin. Bring it on. I love it. And we have the fanless lower power version, the little Kubb Mini. And we'll review that probably a week from now. Everything is a week from now. I'm not sure what order I'm putting things in. But if you guys shout out, reminders to me, that'll bump it up the list. And if you don't, then I might postpone it. Depends on what my schedule is, what I'm feeling, as a priority, or what I'm feeling emotionally interested in. But it'll get done either way. Mark Liebowitz said he purchased a cologne that claimed it would make him a chick magnet. It works, but now we can't get rid of all those annoying baby chickens. Yeah, you gotta watch that. Be careful what you wish for. David Graham says, NVIDIA owns the 3DFX brand. How can there be 3DFX NVMe and RAM? Did NVIDIA make them? I asked AI about the 3DFX NVMe and RAM, and I broke my AI. Are you a lawyer, David? I don't understand. Are you some authority of enforcement, or let me step up on behalf of a $3 trillion company for free on my own behalf with no authority to find out if there's a trademark violation? I think you're outstepping your lane there, buddy, but you have fun with that. I could give a rat's behind. I don't care. What do I care? Poor NVIDIA is suffering. It sounds like an NVIDIA problem. And if NVIDIA doesn't have a problem with it, there was a comedian that talked about his father being raised in a Jewish family, vowed to never buy a Mercedes because it's a Nazi car. And his son, the comedian, was touring, doing his comedy, and toured in Israel. And what he saw in Israel was a bunch of Mercedes taxis. Like more Mercedes taxis than any other brand of car operating as a taxi in Jerusalem or Tel Aviv or wherever he was. And he said to his dad, living in America, the people in Israel don't seem to have a problem with Mercedes. Maybe it's time you get over it. They seem to have gotten over it just fine. You're still holding on to the past. If it's okay with them, I think it should be okay with you. In other words, if NVIDIA's not having any problem with it, what difference does it make to you? But if you figure that out, you let me know. I don't understand. I'm pretty sure NVIDIA can enforce any trademarks on their own. And if they haven't done that, there's probably a reason. But regardless, it doesn't change what we have here, right? So we have the NVMe and the RAM that are included with the unit. And if that's something you don't like for any reason, it's just not for you, and that's okay. It wasn't built for you. Seems like a silly thing to have to explain. They weren't thinking of you when they built this. They weren't? No, they don't even know you exist. They don't? Is this news? Yeah, that everybody makes everything the way I want it. Okay. I tease because I there's a silliness there. But Is that it? I don't see any other comments or questions. Jeff says hello. Glad I could catch live for a moment. Welcome in, Jeff. I'm just scrolling up to see if I missed anything. I don't know that I have. And I don't see anybody repeating or posting any new questions. David Graham says, I wanted to buy it. Okay. And? I don't understand these conversations. If you want to buy it, buy it. It sounds like you're just finding things to complain about. But then you say you want to buy it. I'm getting mixed signals from you. I'm just trying to help guide you, my friend. You seemed a little turned around. But either way, if you want to buy one, they'll be happy to sell you one. And if you don't want to for any reason, they're okay with it too. Your reasons don't matter. Not to them. They don't matter. That's just a you thing. You enjoy that. That's why we make these videos, so each individual can decide for themselves. What you decide is right for you, what somebody else decides is right for them. And what you choose, you don't have to tell us about what your plans are. If you do end up buying one and having any real experience with it, we would love to hear from your experience. But speculation, imagination, and daydreaming, I guess it's conversation, but I don't really. It doesn't really matter to me what you do. But if you do end up making a decision or having some experience with a product and you'd like to share that experience with us, it is always welcome. If you're thinking about doing something, okay, that's good, I guess. Not much I can do until you actually do something. I don't have much more to add. I don't know what you want me to say. We don't make a commission on these. If you buy them, you buy them. If you don't, you don't. We're just here to introduce a product to you. And if that product looks like something you're interested in, you're on your own. And if your product doesn't seem like it's anything you're interested in, you're still on your own. We thank the folks over at Cub for sending us the unit for free in exchange so we can experience it with you live, unrehearsed, to see what it's like. We've never had a French mini PC before. I'd like to see more from this company. I don't see anything here that's a red flag. There might be things I would have done differently, but that's their freedom of choice. This machine, as it sits, as an Ultra 5, would be an ideal solution for my business clients. It's attractive. It would work well in an office place. It's quiet, and its performance is fantastic. I don't know what's not to like. But that's just me and my business client needs. We don't really deal with emotions. We don't deal with, I would like it if it were a different color kind of thing. We don't, not in business. We don't, very rarely ever encounter that. It's mostly, can this do what we need it to do at a price we can afford to return our investment, to make us profitable? And is this a reasonable solution to provide to our employees to help our customers so we can generate more revenue without spending more than we're making? It answers all of those questions as a yes. The only thing that remains unknown at this point would be, what is support like? If we had to return this for some reason, where would we return it? That's one question we need to pose to Cub. What's your RMA process entail? What's it involve? Is there a US depot or no? And what's the turnaround time if we have to send this thing to France for repair? Are we going to be gone without it for a month or what? That's important to know before I would deploy it to a client, unless we have a spare machine that we can immediately put in its place. It's like having a flat tire. I want to have a spare tire that I could at least temporarily ride on until I can get the spare fixed, or the flat fixed rather, which takes the pressure off. I'm not sitting by the side of the road. I can change a tire myself in 5 minutes flat, be done with it, and get back on the road and not have to change my plans for the day. And then work out when I get home, when's a good time to go over to the tire shop and get my tire looked at or replaced. Otherwise, I'm there waiting on a tow truck. It could be 20 minutes away or 2 hours away. I'm just stuck. I don't like having to count on other people. So self-reliance as much as possible, whenever possible, is my motto. And when it comes to these computers and we think about support, the only self-reliance I can come up with at this time would be to have a spare if this were used in a production environment. So we'll ask Kubb about what the RMA process is like and how much time that would take if it's out of country. And then we need to ask about where's the manual, where are the drivers, and why are the links that we're finding on the main parent company's website, they're highlighting, but when we click, they do nothing. And they'll tell us why. They'll either say, oh, we're working on it, or we weren't aware of it, whatever. And then I'll let you know what their answers are, and when we follow up on part 2 of this, where we wipe it and reinstall Windows from scratch. Andy says, thank you, Carey and Mara, for exposing us to a small form factor PC from a country other than China. Well, at least the design, right? The design is it's a French design. I'm sure it's still all made in China. David Graham said he was looking to buy just the RAM. I don't believe the RAM is sold separately. So whoever 3DFX is, it would be like going into Burger King and asking if you could buy just the meat patties uncooked. Probably not. They're not for sale that way. That's usually the case on a lot of these mini PCs, that they have their own brand. Like if you wanted a Paladin NVMe drive or Paladin RAM, they also manufacture their own RAM. Or at least, put their name on their own branding, and they do not sell those separately. You cannot get them. Just because it's in there doesn't mean it's available for sale separately. You'd have to order it that way. All right, guys, I think that'll wrap it up, and thank you so much for hanging out with me on this lovely Friday, the 8th of May. We certainly enjoyed having you here. I hope you enjoyed the visit. I'd enjoy the conversations that we get into, even if I don't understand them or I can't wrap my head around it. I still enjoy it. I enjoy your company. Thank you to all our members in green for making these videos possible. They're our sponsors. Those people in green are the ads that other channels play. Those folks here are our sponsors. And without them, we wouldn't have a channel. So thank you to everybody in green. Thank you to Mark Gaines and to Buster for the Amazon gift cards prior to the show. A lot of the units we've got coming up, we paid for on Amazon, such as the upcoming GMK Tech, AU Star builds, and Glorlin. We paid for all of those with your contributions. And that's more content coming up. Our primary focus on these reviews is to find something that's either very different, or when we're spending our money, find something that we would buy ourselves. This looks promising. Let's see if it is what it appears to be, and we make the video out of it. Many of those units that we buy, we turn around and resell them after the video. If you're interested in any of those, after the video airs, and let's say we're done with it, we're not doing a part 2, we would love to be able to sell it to you. We take a loss, but we can take the money that you pay as payment towards another mini PC for us to review in the future. And that wheel just keeps going around and around. And then we're not beholden to any corporation telling us what we have to say or what we're allowed to do, because we only have to answer to you. That's what I like. Here's our email address if you want to reach out. We love hearing from you guys, so just reach out anytime. showcasecreate@gmail.com, and Sable the cat will get right back to you. That's going to wrap it up for me for today. Thank you to Mara, our channel administrator, for all the work she does tirelessly in the background with the thumbnail designs, the video descriptions, working with the manufacturers to arrange for us to receive these units. It's a lot of back and forth and coordination and understanding what we do so they understand what to expect. and that they're okay with it, that you're not going to blindside them when they thought we were going to do a traditional 10-minute commercial. That's not what we do here. We let all the other YouTube check channels make the commercials. We are here for our community, which we can't thank you enough for being the most amazing community that exists on YouTube. I've never seen another community so supportive and kind as what we have here, and I will protect it with everything I have. Okay. Thanks for watching. We'll see you back here on Sunday with another mini PC to review. Be sure and hit like and subscribe if you're not already, because otherwise you may not know when we're going live. So you just hit the thumbs up button. That lets me know you like this kind of content. When you subscribe, hit the bell icon to turn those notifications on so you're made aware anytime we go live and can join us in our live interactions. That's going to wrap it up for me for today. Again, I hope to see you back here Sunday, 1 o'clock. And in the meantime, on Saturdays, our good friend Doug Betts on his YouTube channel does live interaction troubleshooting. Live Windows Training with Doug Betts is his YouTube channel. And then usually about close to the time his ends, our friend Mike over at Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To out of England does a live interaction video with his audience based out of England. But you're welcome to participate from anywhere in the world. And that's usually Saturday afternoon, which would be Saturday evening in London time. That'll wrap it up. So we'll see you next time. Until Sunday, bye for now.